Welcome, welcome, dear colleagues, to the fourth day of the United Cities and Local Governments Annual Retreat. Today is the day of government. In the Pact for the Future that our political leadership has defined as our strategic priority for the coming years, you know, we are going to be working with and for people, with and for planet, and with and for government. And today we are going to be dedicating some of the discussions to this very important topic. We are a very old movement. We are over 100 years old. And we have a very strong legacy of peace and understanding. What we want to invite you to do today is to reflect on how governments will need to look in the next decades. So welcome again to these open windows, these diverse windows of the World Secretariat. I am delighted to share the main stage with Pablo Fernandez, my Chief of Staff. You know him very well because he has been always accompanying you as we meet throughout the weeks. Pablo, quite a ride this week.
Quite a ride this week, Emilia. I can't believe it's Thursday already. Hola a todas, hola a todos. Bienvenidos otra vez a estas ventanas que seguimos abriendo desde el lunes pasado. Emilia, yo estoy muy emocionado de que sea un día dedicado a los gobiernos, de lo que vamos a hablar, de las nuevas...
Sí, además gobiernos a todos los niveles, a nivel local, a nivel regional, a nivel internacional. Vamos a hablar de multilateralismo, tenemos un programa muy interesante. Pero antes que eso, os hemos hecho una propuesta atrevida con muchos espacios de trabajo que ya habéis estado disfrutando. Shall we visit one of those spaces, Pablo?
Sure, Emilia. We're going to go to one of our new platforms. It's new because it's virtual, but it's the same space as if we were in a physical venue, which is our help desk. My colleagues Carol and Juan Carlos are upstairs here in Avignon. Juan Carlos, Carol, can you hear us?
Sí, buenas tardes, buenos días. ¿Me escuchan?
Yes, we do. Can we go through the program, colleagues?
Bonjour, bonjour à toutes et à tous depuis le service d'assistance de CGLU. Nous sommes ravis de vous accueillir, cette 4e journée du séminaire. Nous commençons donc en plénière tout de suite sur la réalité locale augmentée, la révolution numérique du mouvement. Nous allons suivre ensuite sur des sessions en petits groupes. Juan Carlos.
Sí, tendremos 4 sesiones, una sobre los informes subnacionales voluntarios de los ODS, una sobre crisis y el Fondo de Solidaridad Internacional de CGLU, una sobre la conexión entre derechos de ciudad y derechos del hábitat y derecho a la ciudad, y una última cuarta sobre los Local for Action Hubs que les anunciamos y compartimos con ustedes hace un año en nuestro último retiro.
Ensuite, nous reviendrons en plénière sur ce même lien pour faire le bilan de ces sessions en petits groupes. Et en fin de journée, nous aurons la dernière séance plénière, travailler la recherche avec CGLU. Voilà pour le programme de cet après-midi. Over to you.
Pues muchísimas gracias, Carol y Juan Carlos. Everybody is doing their time in the help desk just to make sure that you feel welcome. That's what we want. Your faces look exactly the same as they do when I am at home in one of our Zoom meetings. So please feel free to ask whatever you need to our colleagues there. And now let us show a couple of other spaces before we kick off the plenary.
Colleagues, as you know, we have been sharing different platforms for you to gather, for you to meet, to discuss. We know that you've been using some of them to meet bilaterally, to meet within the commissions. One of them is Mural, that you can see it in our screen. As you know, every day is dedicated to one topic. On Tuesday, we had people, yesterday we had planet, and today we have government. You can go to our mural, and here you will see, and you can post, you can include links to documents, you can add pictures, or anything you want to say about this. We will go through them after the retreat, and this will help us to report on the retreat and on what we've been doing.
Yes, exactly. Just to add, of course, you can always write in the chat, but whatever you write in the chat, we will be looking at it as we speak with each other now, and then it will be lost, actually. What you leave in mural will be part of the way that we are going to be shaping our work in the future. You can find the link for mural in Uclg Meets. And the next one?
The other platform is Wonder, which is our venue, the place we meet. It's our networking hub. We know that the CIB had a meeting there. The Culture Committee had bilateral meetings. Our Secretary General has met with people in Wonder. Colleagues, can we see Wonder in the screen so that we can show what's happening over there? Our colleagues will share it in the chat. It's a new platform. You can do broadcast over there.
It's interactive. I mean, what I like about Wonder is that you can ask people that you are meeting during the meeting here to go out of Wonder without switching off Zoom. And you can actually talk to each other either privately or in a group. So it's a little bit like being in a lobby and taking a cup of coffee. We don't have much time. We have very important guests. I would suggest to start pretty soon with the plenary. But what is your first sense of these days? A wonderful kickoff this morning with MEWA and EuroAsia, right?
I have to say this. It's been an incredible journey through the whole world with our regional sessions, Emilia. Yesterday we had my own region, Latin America, and the Americas. It was really good. Tomorrow we have Europe. I think we have opened windows all around the world, Emilia.
Well, I hope that you sense a little bit of all of those hugs that we are not able to give you in person. Remember, this is what the theme is about. It's about building community. We are a community that cares. And caring for people, in the case of local governments, is actually talking about government. And so I want to give you a little bit of a frame of what that government concept is for us. And I've got a slide that allows you to see where we come from. I was saying we are a very old movement. We are over 100 years old. Our origins were before the Great Wars, and it really picked up after the wars. The idea of our movement is to actually tackle together the challenges that all of these cities were already seeing in 1916. They came together because they knew no single sphere of government was able to tackle those challenges. So what we are proposing to you is to look at our core values. Peace is very much at the heart of it. And our section from Europe meeting tomorrow is celebrating 70 years constructing this peace. Local democracy, of course, inclusion and right to the city, accountability, open government. We have many tools to be able to address these issues. And at the end of the day, what we want is to ensure that the world is shaped through the expectations of communities, that communities are in the driver's seat. So if that is the case, in order to do that, we will also need to reform multilateralism, and we will need to change the way we relate to communities. It's a very big leap, but I am certain that you are going to understand what I mean by it by hearing two very special guests. So let's go directly with them. You have heard from me enough. Look at the framework is going to be in Uclg Meets. I would like to invite now to the stage, to the virtual stage, Maria Fernanda Espinosa, the president of the 73rd session of the General Assembly. And we also have with us Philippe Rode, the director of LSE, the London School of Economics Cities, that is working with us on emergency governance. Hello again, both of you. Maria Fernanda is our Ubuntu advisor, and so she's following our work closely. and Philippe is working on governance with us, and you will see their presentations are very, very complementary. So I would like to kick off with Philippe, if you agree, and then we will go to Maria Fernanda. Philippe, you were with us last week in one of our policy councils where we were looking at what we have discovered in these times of pandemics. When we decided to work on this topic, we were not yet so aware of the big crisis, health crisis that we were entering into in Tangier. In the meantime, we started to work on it, and we have found quite a few things. You have the floor, Philippe. Share what you know.
Thank you very much, Emilia. And in a moment, I'd like to share some slides as well. So if colleagues could give me those rights, that would be great. But before that, I really want to congratulate you, making at least me feel on my end like almost jumping on a physical stage. And I also see some of the furniture from last year in Tangier, some of your beautiful logos and things. And, you know, we are becoming, and you are becoming so much better building the bridge between the virtual and the physical. And I think it's really important to report this back from someone who is sitting here in the audience. Absolutely stunning what you and your team have been doing on that front. So let me see whether I can now do my screen share. No, not yet. So I'm still waiting to get my...
Philippe, if you can send it to one of the research colleagues, we will make sure to put it in a minute.
Yes, I mean, one of the challenges about breaching this physical and virtual space is that it is highly produced. So it's not as simple as sharing your screen anymore. Send it to us if you prefer. Do you need to have them with you, or can you start talking until we get them?
Well, let me maybe then just kick this off without a screen. As long as my slides are broadly with me, I'm now having here another little glitch. So essentially what I wanted to do is to reflect about 5 years of governance change. And as much as we are at the moment in the present, and I'll come back to this, I think it's quite helpful to remember that 5 years ago, many of us were in the sort of almost final run-up to preparing the new urban agenda and, of course, the Habitat 3 conference. And it was an absolute privilege at the time to work with Uclg to think through with a much bigger group of global experts about a series of paradigms that should guide the next 20 years of urban and regional development. And at the time, we established a range of paradigms which, you know, I think broadly really resonate with exactly the kind of strategies which you have before and after been advancing, whether it's multi-level governance, whether it's a further democratization, whether it's, of course, decentralization, big words. And I thought, reflecting now 5 years after, and even ahead of the crisis, where have we made progress and where have we maybe not yet achieved what we wanted, leads me to single out 3 areas where I do think we can not congratulate ourselves, but certainly feel reassured that we are on track. We can then maybe in the discussion also come back to those where progress hasn't been as significant. So the first one is about our capacity globally to be better at strategic planning, at vertical and horizontal coordination. The rollout of national urban policy is a good indication thereof, but also the ideas of, at the city and regional level, operate with strategic plans. And these don't come out of the blue. They do require the thinking and reforming of government institutions. We need new tools of collaboration, of connections. And I think in this instance, the indication that more and more cities are operating not with master plans or old sort of outdated comprehensive plans, but with strategic plans targeting the urban expansion issue and more elegantly engage with, I guess, a differentiation between what is it we want to centrally control also at the city level, but then, as you said, what is it we want to leave to the community? So big leap forward, I think, from my perspective on strategic planning through also some of the institutional changes. Now, second, coming from a university, that's always easy to argue, but I do think it is important to emphasize capacity building is sort of a second big area where I do believe we have lived up to the expectations. And that goes far beyond formal education. The extent to which networks like Uclg, many other city networks have been scaling up their ability to connect with a global audience of decision makers, of administrators, those working on the ground in cities, is unprecedented, and equipping them with much better tools, how to go about, work on the job, learn on the job, share these practices, not only within their regional context, but internationally, I think has been a game changer. I'll come back to this because it's obviously exactly what we are seeing now also under the crises. The third area where maybe rather obviously we have seen progress is on the digital front and the way we manage data and we incorporate, we at the time talked about sort of digital aware government. And clearly we have leapfrogged in that respect. And with the many crises now present, there is no alternative. We have to work with big data. We need to analyze these data sets, and city governments increasingly have positioned themselves over the last 5 years as a central hub of understanding, interpreting these data sets, but also once again communicating them through their digital platforms to the population at large. So these are three areas of big progress. And then if you would see my presentation at this point, I would now come back to the SDGs and say, and still, if we reflect now almost 6 years after having set up the Agenda 2030, we now have very robust numbers that things are too slow, far too slow indeed. We're not making the progress. The latest report by the United Nations on progress up to 2020, even prior to the crisis, on a whole range of SDGs, and including the ones that are so important to us, to the urban and community, SDG 11 and maybe SDG 17, we are not in sort of synchronized, intact with where we need to be. And that, of course, raises some very difficult question. And once again, independently from the COVID-19 crisis, the fact that we are recognizing the urgency of the situation and in some ways the slow change has now led to an embracing of this almost paradigm around emergencies, emergency governance, and reframing a lot of different type of challenges. You could once again say SDG targets, reframing them as emergencies. And that is, of course, something where then with our emergency governance initiative for cities and regions jointly between the LSE and Metropolis and UCLG, we are trying to make a contribution with all of you, a better understanding of how we can really get to grips with new demands for government and particularly local government, addressing what we consider complex challenges. And before we even do this, again, a reminder, these are not just easy, simple emergency responses within which cities and regional local governments have become very good at responding. They are incredibly complex. They are politicized. They are full of paradoxes, trade-offs. We often don't even see very objectively the actual threat. It's invisible. We know about the threat through our data, through our science. And that makes the policy making and once again, the communication with our local constituencies so much more difficult. So how are we going about this? Well, initially, we were really trying to once again understand better what under the COVID experience, although we will also work on climate, we'll work on housing, which are also reframed as emergencies. But what is it under COVID that made cities and regional governments feel that they are not up to speed, that they are struggling? And we differentiated here broad political challenges and more technocratic challenges. Now, within the technocratic domain, you'd not be surprised that almost the first 3-4 items are all about finance. Finance is really the #1 concern. The budgets, the reallocation of resources, but also the absolute decline in the resources under a moment of crisis, an enormous concern. On the more political side, we are of course confronted with questions of how we communicate with our constituencies, how do we get to the democratic legitimacy we need, and how are we generating, broadly speaking, policies where we can get people on board. Huge challenges. Cities are reporting back that that's where they need exchange. That's where they need more capacity building and thinking. Now, the good news is that as in any moment of crisis, a lot of innovation is happening. And Emilia, Uclg, as you know, you have been a platform for sharing these innovations across the board. We have made an effort in some of our documents to separate out, what are the domains where cities report back real innovation. Interestingly, a lot around leadership, the way we use those regional, local leaders, the way they connect with the general public and also with the administration. There are many new leadership stories which were shared with us and which I think are relevant to understand better and then fully embed and integrate in questions of emergency governance. Similarly, how do we coordinate vertically and horizontally? New practices are emerging every single day. We're trying to aggregate those, report them back to you, hear about your experiences, and in that sense, try to develop slowly something that can all hopefully guide us in the future. And one last item, of course, is once again the digital story, digital connectivity, and the question of how we can, based on these new technical capabilities, make government more robust and better, not least, once again, communicating to our constituencies. Now, the final point, and that brings me now back to the loop of where I started on assessing the different progress or progresses we made in relation to the new urban agenda and our ambition back then, we have many areas of overlap. I do think we are now entering a moment where the big question about decentralization and multi-level governance is back on the agenda under conditions of emergencies. There is not a clear an obvious message across the board that we are either seeing decentralization or centralization tendencies. But within certain countries and certain city regions, you will have reports where there's sometimes a sense of either power grab by more central agencies, by national governments, or the opposite, where you're left alone, where you don't have the resources, where you're not sort of even pushed in a certain direction. So that remains on the agenda. And similarly, the broader issue of how we are going about with democratizing these processes. And we are currently working with a new term, which deals with more empathetic governance and the governance that better connects with people, which at the time, 5 years ago, wasn't really on our horizon. So this is, I think, something which we are all excited with exploring further and understanding much better in the future. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Philippe. I know that it's always very challenging to share so many thoughts and studies in a few minutes, but I think it is very relevant, something that you have brought to us around we are focusing now on COVID, but it's not the only emergency that we are identifying. It will be very relevant for this conversation. We had with us on Monday the special rapporteur of the United Nations on food, and he was arguing that what we have is a crisis of care, which is very much a shared vision by this organization. If we rethink what is essential and who we need to care for, then we will be talking about different things. We were talking also about the path for equality, which are very influenced by this notion. You cannot have trade-offs. Economy is not a trade-off for health, or is not a trade-off for social inclusion. So these things will be very much part and parcel of the discussion when we discuss a renewal of relationships with the communities, with the citizens, but also with other spheres of government. And this is also my introduction now to Maria Fernanda Espinosa. When we met, I don't know when anymore, but I think it's 2 years ago or so, we discussed about UN reform. And as you might remember, I said, I felt that at this time and age, local and regional governments were more multilateralists than the member states themselves. because they realize that the international system is coming short in the challenges, and is related to some of the many challenges and issues that Philippe was signaling out. So how do you think, Maria Fernanda, from your perspective, that we will need to reshape the relationships between the different spheres of government, but in particular, what do we need to do to make this multilateralism that we have more powerful, more efficient, to ensure a universal vaccine? How do we do that? I know you are very active in generation equality, but also in universal health coverage promotion. So how do you see this?
Well, thank you so much. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Avignon, bonjour. I would like to of course, start by saying hello to Emilia, the entire team of UCLG for this retreat. And I see this as, believe me, I'm not a super technology top person, but I am so impressed, you know, to see this augmented reality, hybrid, innovation and co-creation lab that you have put together, and really thank you for having me. I'm truly impressed, I have to say. No, and in today, perhaps you know, responding to your question, Emilia, I would like to very quickly to say that we have learned the hard way, and because of the pandemic, and it is not a secret, and you know better than I do, you know, how much the municipal movement, cities, regional governments have been at the forefront of responding to the pandemic. And we have heard from you, from Philippe, from the specialists, that, you know, cities have been, you know, a contested, paradoxical spaces. On one hand, for creativity, for innovation, for democracy building, and yet also spaces where inequalities, shortages, violence, and deficits are also evident. And we have seen it in the past months because of COVID-19. And I think that, you know, the control and mitigation of the pandemic needs the strengthening of the role of the state in general terms, and of cities and local governments in particular, in terms of democratic governance structures and what we have been calling networked, multi-layered multilateralism. And today, if you allow me, I would like to speak about 3 asks, lessons learned from the pandemic, and also from the multilateral lens. And basically, you know, my call today is to say that the big learning experience has been, we need more state, more community, more multilateralism. And one of the key lessons of COVID is that the need of robust, well-funded public health systems and universal health coverage as the key antidote and a true stopper of any pandemic and of any crisis as well. We know the death toll, the above 100 million people infected, et cetera, and I think that beyond the public health, the education, the notion of social protection, of the care economy, of safety nets for unemployment, shelters for domestic violence, you know, have proven to be matters of survival in situations of crisis. And I think that the COVID pandemic has made it clear that markets cannot replace the role of the state in providing public goods. You know, this gradual dismantling of the state based on theories of market fundamentalism. And I'm saying this because I come from a region which is facing precisely that, Latin America, and perhaps you heard that yesterday, you know, and basically what we have to be careful with, and this is very much connected to the discussion on multilateralism, you know, since the 80s, we know that we have lost the capacity, looking at my region, of to guarantee to people the delivery of public goods and services, and that health is to be considered a part of our global commons and key to our human security. The notion of the public, of the commons, has taken new meaning and centrality, in policy choices and investment, even in the most, liberal democracies. And one of the key challenges is how to ensure that public goods in general have effective, accountable governance scaffolds. And therefore, I see as critical to rethink the concept of the nation state as a homogeneous territorial entity, but rather as a porous, diverse aggregation of powers, including, of course, local and regional governments, but including, of course, a new redefinition of power at the international and multilateral level. So I think that when we see the global efforts, the trillions for economic recovery and the reconfiguration of global governance after COVID, I think this is a new moment. We are living a new moment to revitalize, on the one hand, decentralization, and to provide local governments with the funding, the institutional capacity to better manage and provide public goods. And we need more community. That's the second issue where I think UCLG, the municipal movements, you are champions of community building. We have, for example, so much to learn from East and Southeast Asian societies, from indigenous peoples, where communal values are stronger than individualistic values of Western society. So the tension between social discipline and civil liberties have been, unresolved and being part of the agenda, as we speak, because of the pandemic. So if we look at the 15 countries of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the 15 countries, more than 2 billion people, there have been, perhaps with the exception of Indonesia, but they have been the ones that have managed to control the pandemic and are already working on economic recovery. So, what I see is the common denominator is a stronger sense of community, of social discipline, of generosity, to a reinforced role of local governments. And we have seen these. I'm part of the Lancet Commission, and when we're making the analysis, that has just really come out as a key definer. And what is the role of local and regional governments? I think that they can play a major role in not only on stopping the virus, but in addressing crises, in building resilience in general. Looking at taking care of the ones that need to be taken care. And I agree that we are living a crisis of care, and the economies of care are suffering. And who the group of people that are suffering the most because of the care crisis are women in general, because of unpaid work and other issues. And I would like to close with saying we need more state, but to rethink the very concept of the state, we need more community, but we need more global solidarity and cooperation. We need a strong, vital, effective, and inclusive multilateralism. I remember very well the conversation we had a couple of years ago, Emilia. And if we look again at COVID-19, it is a total social fact, using Marcel's most concept, a truly global phenomenon that has touched everybody, every country, every community, every city. And I think one of the issues is how to combat fear, mistrust, anxiety, and not only because of contagion, because of the virus, but because of the way we look at the future. So I think that we need to reassert the idea of global common goods that are non-exclusionary, of universal access. In here again, the role of the multilateral system is critical. You ask about the vaccine, and it is sad what is happening. Most of the initial supply of the vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccines, is flowing directly to high-income countries. The 27 member states of the European Union, with Canada, with the United States, Great Britain, Australia, Japan, I think also, have acquired about half of the world's existing vaccine production. including options to request additional doses, etc. These countries represent only around 13% of the world's population, and they have pre-bought an average of more than 5 doses of the vaccine for each of their citizens. And I think that, and of course, this is creating, we know, dwindling short-term supplies of the vaccine for low and middle income countries. And we have the COVAX, which is a multi-stakeholder platform to provide at least 20% of the needed vaccines for the global south, but it is not working, it is underfunded, and basically there is competition, there is a lack of access, and some experts say that in the developing world, in the poorest economies, perhaps we might have to wait until 2022, 2023 to have access to vaccines. So this is a vivid example that the multilateral system is facing serious challenges. So, and for that, we need, again, the voice, the agencies of local and regional governments. And it's not only about budgets, it is about being part and parcel of the refounding of the multilateral.
Maria Fernanda. Can you just conclude in a second so that we can do a second round?
Sure. Basically, in very concrete terms, the Secretary General of the UN has to prepare for member states a report for September this year for the future and the reform of the UN. So for the UN, we need for the future. This is an extremely important space where the voices, where the experience of local and regional governments is critical. It is being called our common agenda. I think that our common agenda cannot exist without the Pact for the Future that Uclg is putting together. And there is a golden opportunity there that I think that we should make full use of. And thank you, and back to you, Emilia.
Thank you so much, Maria Fernanda. Yes, I wanted to go to you later on that, but it's great that you are bringing it now. And I just wanted, before we open the floor, and we have many participants that I am certain, and I know of a couple of them that are willing to take the floor. I wanted to go back to Philippe and explore with you, Philippe, basically what Maria Fernanda is saying about more government, more state, more government, I would call it, more community, more multilateralism, is what we have been saying throughout the past year about public is back, the common goods as a very important departing point. This came out very, very clearly yesterday when we were talking about planet, and obviously also when we were talking about people, on Tuesday. I am wondering, Philippe, whether in the research that we are doing and in the cases that we are considering during this pandemic, we see clearly that there is this whether public is really back. I think that what we sense is people want to be taken care of. They don't worry so much how, and they have these high expectations. But I am wondering whether the legal frameworks are up to the task and whether public can really be back. So a quick thought on that before we open the floor.
Thank you, Emilia. I mean, it's an incredibly important point. And I would have thought at the moment the debate hasn't matured enough that we actually disaggregate what we mean by public is back. And I just want to give you a few examples. I think everyone is in agreement that under a situation of emergency, it's in fact also one of the paradigms which we are putting forward. Government somehow needs to be in the driving seat. They need to hold these efforts together of getting back to some type of normality, whenever that will be. But from beyond that agreement, you're then very quickly hitting very controversial questions. We will want to see whether we can detect, for example, degrees of deprivatization or municipalization when it comes to different urban or regional sectors? Is transportation, again, becoming more public than being privatized? Same with many utilities. And there you immediately can see that the debate will not be as consensual. Second question, the tax base. You know, a lot of progressive people believe and have been emphasizing for some time that the tax base needs to increase for a more equitable world. But, you know, it's very, very hard to advance these conversations, often also because at the city level, cities don't have the powers to then even go about with those type of reforms. So I think we are about to enter a conversation where we become more precise about what it means the public is back. Last point, maybe, I think there's a lot of agreement that the idea that it's only the private or third sector that can be innovative is a myth. It really is only a myth. And we are going to see a lot of innovation driven by the state, maybe by commissioning, maybe also by in-house activities. And that will be extremely interesting and relevant.
Yes, indeed. Maybe what we are seeing is that we know now that they are not necessarily more innovative, but they are certainly much more flexible than we are allowing the public sector to be. I was talking to our Swedish members a couple of weeks back, and they were explaining how national government had given them very important funds to manage this COVID pandemic, but they had not given them the tools to actually contract people or find employees that would actually do this. So we are kind of trapped in this kind of legal frameworks. I'm going to open the floor because I know I have some mayors with us that might be interested in speaking. I know that Mayor Sefiani is with us. So I would like to encourage him to take the floor. I see also Octavi de la Varga that has written in the chat this issue of complexity. He might want to comment on this. And we also have our Ubuntu advisor, Jorge Pérez Jaramillo with us. So Mayor Sefiani, alcalde, ¿estarías listo para intervenir? But don't go anywhere, Maria Fernanda and Philippe, because we are going to come back. Alcalde, ¿se nos perdió?
Sí, yo creo que
pues entonces vamos a Octavi. Octavi, los comentarios sobre el tema de complejidad que ponías en el chat y que te parece importante en el marco de este Emergency Governance.
Sí, no, yo creo que es una idea que ha citado Philippe y que puede parecerlo, creo que lo comentamos en algún Cities Are Listening, una sesión Cities Are Listening, ¿no? De que parecía de sentido común, pero que vivimos realidades muy complejas y muy interconectadas, ¿no? Y sobre todo a nivel local. Y eso muchas veces yo creo que ni los modelos de gobernanza actuales que tenemos, ¿no? Ni los procesos de policy making que tenemos muchas veces incorporan esta complejidad. Si a esa complejidad aparte la añadimos, ¿no? En contextos de cambio rápido, ¿no? De cambio rápido, el contexto te cambia de un día para otro. El ejemplo de la pandemia, ¿no? De un día para otro cambia. Y todo lo que habíamos planificado, planteado y la manera de gestionarlo lo tenemos que repensar. El impacto, creo que Philippe también lo ha comentado, ¿no? Y, por ejemplo, nosotros desde la perspectiva de Metrópoli es uno de los temas que estamos trabajando mucho, que es el impacto de la disrupción digital. Yo creo que todavía no somos realmente conscientes de lo que supone la digitalización, la inteligencia artificial en nuestros modelos de sociedad, ya no digo de gobierno, sino en nuestros modelos de sociedad, de modelos económicos, de modelos de relacionamiento entre personas y que eso va a condicionar mucho no solamente cómo se desarrollan las políticas y cómo hacemos sociedades más iguales, pero también condiciona ese relacionamiento entre las diferentes esferas de gobierno, ¿no? Yo solamente citar, hace 2 años hicimos un pequeño estudio en Metrópolis sobre el impacto de la digitalización entre nuestra membresía y era muy interesante porque salían conclusiones como sí, nos estamos adaptando, pero paralelamente se decía, no tenemos a los equipos técnicos ni políticos preparados para asumir lo que supone una gestión y una gobernanza digital y una gestión de las políticas, la implementación de políticas en un mundo digitalizado, ¿no? Tenemos los instrumentos, pero no tenemos las capacidades ni, yo diría, el mind shift necesario para poder gestionar este nuevo modelo, ¿no? Yo creo que son elementos que se han acelerado mucho más, esto os comentaba yo creo que con la COVID, ¿no?
Muchas gracias, Octavi. No estoy viendo otras manos. Sí veo a colegas, no sé si Pérez Jaramillo, el otro Ubuntu, estaría interesado en responder. Me interesa mucho saber un poco la perspectiva europea, porque ha habido muchas tensiones en Europa entre las diferentes esferas de gobierno sobre cómo gestionar esta crisis, y la cohesión se ha puesto también en duda. Pero yo
Emilia.
creo que... ¿Sí? Háblame.
Soy Jorge Pérez, es que no encuentro dónde levantar la mano, perdón.
Listo, pero habla, ya estás aquí con nosotros.
Bueno, muy bien, no, quería pues agregar, porque comparto los planteamientos tanto de María Fernanda como de Octavi. A mí me parece que en la realidad, por ejemplo, de América Latina y seguramente del sur global, lo que tenemos es un problema también de diferenciación extrema entre los territorios. O sea, ustedes que han mirado tanto mi ciudad, Medellín, pues se pueden confundir cuando uno piensa en la realidad de las ciudades colombianas. Ese no es el caso generalizado de Colombia, infortunadamente, y tampoco de América Latina. Hoy nosotros estamos trabajando con el gobernador Aníbal Gaviria en la región y tenemos 125 municipalidades, y ustedes no se imaginan la diversidad y la extrema diferencia e inequidades que encontramos en el territorio. Entonces, quería señalar que además de la complejidad, hay una variable que es la multiescalaridad de los problemas y la necesidad de fortalecer redes regionales asociadas a las grandes ciudades, ya no solo a nivel metropolitano, que es lo frecuente o lo menos raro, sino en general buscar que nuestros territorios puedan acceder a esta cultura, por ejemplo, que lidera nuestra organización, pero que lidera la discusión global de la nueva agenda urbana y otros temas. Nosotros, y termino ahí, estamos trabajando pues muy fuertemente en buscar cómo reaccionar frente no solo a la pandemia actual del COVID, sino a las diferentes pandemias, especialmente la emergencia climática y la crisis de pobreza que pervive. Y hemos creado mecanismos de cooperación técnico y es posible, o sea, es posible buscar en red que municipios de diversas capacidades, escalas y recursos puedan tener desarrollo técnico si somos, si trabajamos colectivamente. Entonces, llamar la atención sobre eso me parece que es vital. Creo que Naciones Unidas y las organizaciones multilaterales, como dice María Fernanda, se tienen que tomar mucho más en serio el problema de las ciudades y regiones, porque de lo contrario la respuesta no va a llegar. Y terminar diciendo que me parece que hay un asunto necesario, urgente, y lo planteé pues en la reunión de Ubuntu y estoy un poco comprometido con esa idea. En todo el mundo tenemos mucha capacidad en las universidades, pero las universidades están desconectadas con el mundo institucional de las ciudades y los territorios. Es decir, hay una especie de juego entre francotiradores y no una estrategia de cooperación. Si nosotros lográramos que las comunidades académicas globales llegaran a través de nuestra organización y las instituciones a las comunidades, podríamos lograr muchas cosas. Cambio.
Muchísimas gracias, Jorge. Esta tarde, de hecho, tenemos una sesión sobre investigar con CGLU para explorar efectivamente cómo podemos seguir encajando eso. Yo quisiera volver un poco a María Fernanda, porque sé que se tiene que ir muy rápido. María Fernanda, ¿algún pensamiento adicional que quieras añadir ante esta perspectiva territorial que también te propone Jorge? Y después daría 2 palabras más y he visto a Luz Amparo de Bogotá. María Fernanda.
Bueno, Emilia, básicamente yo creo que ahorita tenemos una oportunidad que es una especie de, sorry, I switched into Spanish, perhaps English. What I wanted to say is that we are living a golden opportunity, a space, an opening of windows no, for the retooling of the multilateral system. And everybody's speaking about the need for a new social pact, a new Green Deal globally, and also the future of the UN and the need to retool the system. I think we have the responsibility here to come up with a checklist. What do we mean by building back better our governance structure?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to also just pick up on what Philippe said, you know, what do we mean by the public is back? And sometimes people are afraid of using the word state, and we need to rethink the role of the state as well, and the state connecting to the multilateral scenario. And of course, you know, part of our task of the municipals movement is to do this checklist of the building back better of new democratic governance structures that are going to connect with this new global Green Deal that I see that the political leaders have so much appetite for. And we need to fill the blanks of what we mean by that. And you know, I'm very, very enthusiastic about this moment of reinvention. We have suffered, we have lost so many things, but I think that we are giving now this incredible opportunity. And when we hear that the SDGs have to become emergency, a survival kit, I agree. How to do it, I think, is the big question. And we are here to discuss precisely this checklist on how to build back better, which has to include the building back better of our multilateral system. And of course, as you all know, with a seat, the voice and agency of local and regional governments at the center. Thanks.
So thank you very much. Very concrete proposal, Maria Fernanda. A checklist, a checklist for that governance renewal, a checklist also, I would say, for multilateral reform. I know that you need to leave, feel free to do that at any time. You will be coming back to these conversations in the coming weeks, and we will work together with a very concrete roadmap towards that special moment for the UN Secretary General report. Thank you very much, Maria Fernanda. So I'm going back to Luz Amparo Medina. She represents the city of Bogotá here. Luz Amparo, yo vi tu mano. ¿Estás lista?
Sí, aquí estoy. Muchas gracias, Emilia, y muchas gracias por las intervenciones tanto de Philippe como de María Fernanda. Son muy inspiradoras las dos. Quiero subrayar como dos aspectos que un aspecto que cada uno de ellos pusieron sobre la mesa. Uno tiene que ver con lo que implica el trámite de las transformaciones y de los cambios que necesitamos como humanidad para el planeta. Esto, digamos que el multilateralismo ha sido muy efectivo para indicar los qués. Tenemos que comprometernos con ciertas metas, hacer ciertas cosas. El tema de fondo es el cómo, y eso nos lleva a una cuestión política muy compleja en este momento, y es que estamos en países y en sociedades tremendamente divididas políticamente, con unos niveles de crispación muy, muy radicales, y hacer este tipo de transformaciones cuesta capital político para los gobernantes en contextos democráticos. Y allí yo creo que hay un rol del multilateralismo que jugar también, acompañando el trámite de los cambios. Cada proceso es muy localizado y cada dinámica responde como a las agendas y a los actores locales en el territorio. Pero sí es verdad que muchas de estas transformaciones van a requerir no solamente un consenso a nivel global, sino inventarnos formas de acompañamiento para poderlos llevar a cabo, porque cuestan y cuestan muchísimo. Y en sociedades tan divididas y tan tan polarizadas como las que estamos viviendo en este momento, yo creo que este tipo de acompañamiento que no se ha hecho, y no sé muy bien cómo hacerlo, pero digamos, quiero ponerlo sobre la mesa porque creo
ya
que...
lo vamos a averiguar, Luz, ya vamos a ver
Bueno,
cómo lo organizamos. Creo que es parte de esta discusión, efectivamente. El cómo de algunas cosas que necesitamos, yo creo que María Fernanda estaba haciendo referencia también a filling in the gaps. I mean, we have these opportunities, there is this appetite for the global agendas, we know a lot of what we want to do and have to do, but we need to fill in the gaps of how do we accompany this with capacity, with resources and others. And it's a responsibility that I guess the next generation of the municipal movement needs to undertake. That's a bit how I am looking at that. Sorry, I cut you off. Please, any last minute thoughts that you would like to add, Luz?
Simplemente que una tarea que también tenemos que profundizar en la línea de lo que María Fernanda decía tiene que ver con ver cómo en Occidente transitamos hacia unos valores mucho más comunitarios, más colectivos. Ninguna empatía va a poder surgir solamente con conceptos de cambio climático, de acción climática, necesitamos un cambio de valores. Yo tampoco estoy segura cómo eso se logra y se avanza, cuando además mucho de la tensión política pasa por esa visión contradictoria alrededor de valores. Entonces son tareas que tenemos por delante y creo que en estos espacios multilaterales tenemos que poner todas estas mentes brillantes que nos acompañan a producir formas de actuar y de hacer estas transiciones efectivamente.
Gracias, gracias Luz. And I would see if there is anybody else that wants the floor. I read something in the chat that I don't understand. Emilio is asking etiqueta a Manolo, and I don't
think
really...
it was a private message.
Yes,
that it was
I don't know what that means. I thought maybe he wanted to take the floor. If I don't see any hand, then I would go back to Philippe to give some comments, because we would go to breakout sessions very related to this topic and then come back. And I want to do a pitch for you on what our future traceability of work and our future advocacy agenda could look like. So, Philippe, any thoughts from these inputs that we have received today?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I think it's worth going back to Octavie's point, where he was suggesting that it's local government which may be best equipped to deal with complexity. And if that is the case, you know, we do have a very strong case for why you would want to strengthen local and regional government. So let me just add one view which would be in support of precisely Octavie's point. And that is one way of thinking about intervening under conditions of complexity is that you don't know for sure what the outcomes are going to be. And therefore, a process of experimentation in the real world become necessary. And we need to have a degree of tolerance for failure. And that is, of course, now something where local governments, city governments, most importantly, because they're closer to the people, and they may be able to inject a degree of acceptance that whatever we are going to test, whatever kind of strategies we are rolling out, they may not immediately successful, but one is in this together. There's a sense of community and maybe also a degree of pride. And we have seen this in many innovative cities of just daring the new. And in that regard, I do think local governments have an advantage. They may not be so much under pressure. And I think we certainly need to increase even more the spectrum of being sort of protected against having to always make sure that you are able to 100% achieve what you are saying you will achieve at the point of departure. If that's the paradigm for government under complexity, we are stuck. We need to get away from that sense of 100% security and knowing exactly the outcomes and achieve a degree of tolerance and acceptance that there is also failure.
Absolutely. My former Secretary General was always talking about we need to accept the beta versions in governance. And in general, I think that it's a very valid point, but we will need to work a lot. And I am sorry I haven't been able to give the floor to colleagues of civil society. They didn't raise their hand. But we will need to improve the trust between citizens and government as well to improve that. And Frederic, you have raised your hands and I was about to close. Are you going to be very brief? Go ahead, go ahead.
I am going to be very brief, Emilia. Very sorry to jump in at the last moment, but I just have a reflection on my mind. You know, Aesop, who lived some 1,000 years ago, said language is the best and the worst thing. And thinking of digital, this is something I use very much because we can do a lot of things with digital. We can move up to a next level of development. And at the same time, we need to be careful to bring everyone together on this and not to leave any territories, any citizens aside. So that's just a thought to say that what we think about now is probably something philosophers and others were thinking about already some 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. So it's as old as civilization.
Oh, I'm sure about that. Yes. So thank you for these inspiring words, Frederic, that will need to guide us in our epic quest for a renewed social contract articulated around the pact for the future. There are few things that we are inventing, and the smartest technologies are the humans. So let us make sure that we build governance around that. We have breaking sessions now, breakout sessions, yeah. Not breaking. We are not breaking anything. We are breaking out. And can you remind us, Pablo?
Yes, we have a breakout session on voluntary subnational reviews. We're going to stay here in this link. For the other sessions, my colleague will share on the chat where you have to go. We have another session on crisis on our Solidarity Fund. We have a session on the dialogues that we've been doing with civil society, with Habitat International Coalition and the Global Platform for the Right to the City, with special rapporteurs of the United Nations. And we have one session of our beloved Local for Action hubs. So we're going to stay here for the voluntary subnational reviews, but please go to the other Zooms that you have to join the other sessions. And we'll see you here at 4 and 2 minutes.
Yes, exactly. 4 and 2 minutes. It's a 30-minute session. Enjoy, everybody. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome all of you again. And we are now in a breakout session on the voluntary subnational report. And I will quick invite to Eline to take the floor and to introduce the session. Eline, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Edgardo. So hello, everybody. Welcome in this session. My name is Eline Vermeer. I am part of the UCLG CIB Capacity and Institution Building Group Secretariat as an STD expert. CIB has been quite present through the retreat, which has been excellently organized by UCLG. And I would like to welcome you to this short UCLG retreat session on supporting the voluntary subnational reviews processes. And we are very happy to be able to discuss this subject with you today. As you know, this is a very short session of only 30 minutes. Today's goal is to define the content and objectives of the first VSR meeting, which will be organized in March. So let me underline, today is about setting the agenda for the first meeting in March, and the discussion of the content of that meeting will be discussed in the meeting in March. So please use the chat to send us your comments, your questions. Our UCLG colleagues are following the chat, and we'll later share the comments with the participants in the VSR trajectory. So please mute your mic and chat ahead in the chat box.
Thank you, Aline. It is my pleasure to introduce the objective of this session and who is taking part in these sessions. As we mentioned, our objective, our main objective is to look how we can build all together voluntary subnational reports. What is the difference between subnational and local reports? First of all, local reports, it was, we hear about local reviews in the past years. As you know, from 1718, many cities and local governments were pushing or developing voluntary local reviews. In 3-4 years, we have at the moment around 65 voluntary local reviews. Our reflection about that we need to move a step forward. We need to support local governments association and regional governments associations to develop subnational reports. What does that mean? A report that brings together the knowledge, the experience, the initiative from all levels of subnational government, from regions, from big cities, from middle towns, small cities, and try to complement or contribute to the voluntary national reporting process. So a broader vision of what is going on at subnational level in the countries. Who is taking part on this process for the moment? We have last year in 2020, the first year we launched this initiative, we have 6 pilot countries. This year we have around 8 pilot countries. We have, as you see on the slide on the right, Norway, Germany, Zimbabwe, Mexico with the support of CONAM and FLACMA, Indonesia with the support of ASPAC and Localize, and also more recently, SALAR from Sweden, Cape Verde and Tunisia. And we have some expression of interest on this initiative from Spain. And we are dealing with this with the support of our section, particularly as I mentioned, UCLG ASPAC, UCLG Africa, Ramatuka is following that. And we are trying now to develop jointly this initiative with the CIB working group. And I give back the floor to Eline to explain us how the CIB working group see the contribution to this process. Eline.
Thank you, Edgardo. Well, we see our contribution to the process as such that, of course, the CIB working group consists of representatives from local government associations with vast experience on SDG reporting. Over the past years, various CIB members have managed to include data and information on the engagement of local governments in voluntary national reviews in the past 5 years. And as UCLG World Secretariat and CIB Working Group Secretariat, we would like to support those LGAs and other LGAs on bringing this process even further, because we consider it as our objective to strengthen local government associations in the development of voluntary subnational reports that can feed the VNRs, but that can also help LGAs strengthen their own positioning, visibility, policy agenda on the SDGs. So therefore, we are very happy to jointly support and coordinate the process of the voluntary subnational reviews in early 2021.
And let me
And
add,
so-
you have a, go on, you have a lot of vision for the coming, for the next part of the year. Go on, please.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. We also did a slide that was just on the screen, showed it, the joint action that we will be undertaking in the coming months. This will look concretely as support for the VSR process, of course. So we have set up a reference group with the LGAs just mentioned by Edgardo to exchange on the VSR process. So in the coming months, we will jointly offer support and coordination on the VSR process.
We lost Aline. Okay, let me continue in time, Aline showing us again. See, we are going to have a very intensive work in this coming 3-4 months until June, I will say. And then in the second part of the year, we'll try to take stock of what we did. We are going to develop a guidelines or to go deeper in the methodology to develop voluntary subnational reports. And also we will develop some webinars with the support of with learning section and obviously with CIV. And we look for the roadmap of the BSR for the next years. Then, sorry, Aline, you are back?
Yes, somehow my internet shut off. Apologies for this, but thank you for taking over.
Very well. Now I will like to introduce our main next steps is trying to bring all the local governments associations and partners that are working on BSR this year to develop a workshop in next March. The idea is today to discuss the different, the object, the dates for this possible workshop. We are proposing to do that on the second week of March, if possible around the 11th or 12th of March, but we will launch a consultation to fine-tuning the dates and also to discuss all together what could be the contents of this workshop. We have put on the right side the collection of some of the proposals we received from some of the partners, and particularly for the colleagues from the Norway, from KS. Björn, if you are there, could we please introduce what are the key questions or the key topics that the Norwegian Association would like to discuss with the others, local government association and other partners. Björn, are you there?
I'm here. Hello, everyone. When Norway is obviously reporting to the high-level political forum this year, and we saw this as an opportunity to produce a voluntary sub-national report in order to achieve three main goals. We had some inspiration from the 6 pilots of last year, and we thought this gives us an opportunity to better capture the work across the levels of government. It helps us bring out knowledge about what our members would need and expect from KS as an association in support of their SDG work, and also to bring out issues we would like to raise with the national authorities in order for local and regional governments to better work with the SDGs. And finally, we also thought that having entered the decade of action, we need to take stock of results and not only continue to discuss how to localize the SDGs. So this brought us to thinking, what is it we need to capture in such a report? And what is shown on the screen are some of the issues we thought would be useful to include. This was at a stage when we were reflecting on how to structure the information and how to find the information we need to include. Since then, we have moved a little bit further, and we are now we are now at the stage where we think we would need 4 parts to our report. The first part would be a highlight of findings and also a discussion on why we want to do a VSR and what we want to achieve. And then finally, in the first part, also a discussion on methodology and the process of preparing the report. Part 2 should be more about localizing the policy, the enabling environment, the interaction between levels of government, the creation of ownership, the involvement, commitment, leaving no one behind, and institutional mechanisms. The third part will be centered around progress to date. And here we had a long discussion on how to measure progress, what kind of indicators to use, where to find the data, etc. We are now landing on a taxonomy, which we are testing, which will help us sort relevant indicators for the various goals and targets with which our members are working. And then the fourth part of the report would be a conclusion and a recommendation for further action for local and regional governments to continue the momentum in working with the SDGs, and for us as an association to continue the dialogue with national authorities about policy choices, enabling environments, and structural issues. Before concluding, I just wanted to add under part 2, we are using a survey to capture how local and regional governments localized the SDGs.
Thank you very much, Björn. We are receiving many inputs in the chat about this content. See, what we are trying to frame, and this is a process, it's not only today, is the content of this workshop in March to allow to deepen the debate and exchange between the different local government associations and also the experts that are developing hand by hand with the local government associations these voluntary subnational reports. Then we have questions about how to integrate interlinkages between the different SDG and the different pillars, how better monitoring and measure actual contribution of local authorities to broader evolution. Then we try to summarize, if you see on the right side, for me at least, of the slide, the content, we try to summarize some of the points, but this is only a draft. This is only some preliminary ideas. Then in the coming 1 week, 10 days, we will ask all of you, if you are interested to take part in this process, first of all, to nominate, to mention that you want to be part of this process, to participate in the workshop in March. We are going to ask you also to contribute with the different topics that you would like to be discussed in this workshop in March. And obviously, we, UCLG and the World Secretariat with the CIV working group, we will try to prepare, to help you to prepare, to co-create, because we are asking also many of the local government associations that, that you are developing these voluntary subnational reviews to be part of the preparation of the workshop. Then, I don't know, before giving the floor to Eline to try to summarize and to help us to build the roadmap for the coming months. I don't know if someone else want to take the floor. I understand some of you are asking to take the floor. Sabine, for example, if you want to share, Sabine, Maybe Adi from Mexico also. Sabine, go on, please. You are mute. Sabine, you are mute.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Edgardo, and hello to everyone from all over the world. Yes, as I wrote in the chat, so we can proudly announce that German Association of City today, 1 hour ago, was officially invited.
No veo quiénes están. Sabine.
Can you understand me? Okay, we are now officially invited to be integral part of the voluntary national review in Germany. So let's say it's not the government for environment explained that they themselves will honor or appreciate activities from the local level, and we can have a local part, so that they want to integrate. It is very nice. And Edgardo asked what could be content of the workshop next month in March. So of course it's nice to see what other colleagues will write about in their review. So we plan to speak about methodologies. So we are part of our SDG portal. That is one content. Another content are frameworks to report about the SDGs, and of course best practices from our member cities. But we are happy to receive better ideas from other countries. And please feel free and invited to propose something. And what I also find important is that we find a way to perform together at high-level political forum virtually in New York this year. So it's not that I have an idea, but I find it could be very nice that we refer to each other when writing these reviews. And altogether, these are more than 30 countries performing. And I'd like Edgardo to connect us somehow. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabine. I don't know if other colleagues, we have only 1-2 minutes before we move to the closing on the last part of this workshop, of this breakout room session. Could I ask Adi from Mexico, because she brings another point of view, what's going on in a country in the preparation of this voluntary subnational report. Adi, if you are there, please go on.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, great. Good morning. Well, from Mexico, good morning to everybody. Nice meeting you. It's really nice to share these ideas with a global community. We just started the subnational report of Mexico, and our main challenges are the manage of all the statistics that we got, because the National Statistical Institute has lots of information. So now we are digging up all the data that we think and we consider is more relevant to provide a very accurate and sound basis for discussing how the local subnational governments are progressing. And the second challenge, the main challenge from my point of view, is about how we interact and actually coordinate with our national government. Because obviously the report has to be done in a very short time. And nowadays there are some important changes in terms of the office that is heading the coordination of the agenda at the national level. So there are quite a lot of political things that we have to do to contact, for instance, state governments or some federal institutions that also work on local governments. So now this is our main challenge, and I think that we will be able to provide a good report, even given the short time. But we are looking forward to sharing our findings with the global community. And finally, I would like to say that I think that the most important outcome of the report and most challenging one will be how to make really an impact on what the national government is doing to support local governments to move forward with the SDGs in the frame of this after post-pandemic time. Thanks very much.
Eileen, give me 30 seconds. I would like to invite, because she's doing a big effort from Asia Pacific, from Indonesia. This time it's very late for them. Aniesa, you put a questions on the chat regarding the process and the relation between Association of Local Authorities and local authorities. Aniesa, if you are there, do you want to take the floor? If not, we move toward Eileen. Aniesa, are you there?
Hi, Edgardo.
Go on, please.
Yeah. So in Indonesia, we've has been engaging with 3 local authority association of local authorities, and also, as we know, the association of local authorities also have different capacity, and then so we are actually very eager to better understand in other countries who also in other local governments who also prepare the VSR, whether to what extent their associations has also actively participate in the process. I think we also find it it can be sometimes challenging to convince the associations to really took an active role in preparing the VSR and convince that it's a really important input for to be integrated to the VNR.
Thank you very much, Aniesa. And I think we have message from Han, from BBSG, from Belgium. We have different message. We will collect all the information. But now I need to move to Eileen. Eileen, could you please show us the roadmap for the coming months, weeks and months, particularly to prepare the workshop in March? Go on, please, Eileen.
The timeline of the trajectory is March until June. In March, the second week of March, we have the first workshop on this VSR trajectory. And then in June, of course, there will be the presentation of the reports in the HLPF. So as a follow-up to this session today, we will, of course, reach out to you through email on dates for the workshops that will lead towards the presentation of the reports, to choose the dates with you. Also, secondly, we have to establish how to organize regular exchange between the teams and local government associations by sharing key milestones. And what are key milestones? These are the opportunities where we can learn from each other. I will briefly take you along on what will be those key milestones in the coming months, so you know what to expect. So in mid-February, the detailed work plans will be developed for the VSRs, including the methodology on collecting information requested for the preparation of the voluntary national report. And we would like to ask you to share this also with us so we can share it with all the participating LGAs. In the first week of March, or mid-March, we will have a detailed presentation of the report structure and the progress in collection of good practices for the localization of the SDGs in the different countries. So, for example, what is your methodology in collecting such good practices? Is it an even distribution of big or small cities, for example, poor and wealthy regions, different regions throughout the city? Because, of course, perhaps it's not possible to gather data from all the municipalities. So then a representative selection of municipalities should be made. And we can look into what is your bibliography, use of data, what is your statistical approach? And we would like to share this between the teams to see how different groups are approaching this process. Then before April 30, we will have final draft versions of the reports. The month of May can be used for revision. Before May 30, we will have finalized content of the study. And this is important because it needs to be ready, of course, in time to also be used as an input for the VNRs. And then by the end of June, the reports will be layouted, made look nice, and can be published. These are the principal key milestones that are coming up, just to inform you about the process that we'll be rolling out from now. Also, as a follow-up, we would be very interested to know from your organizations, when you're participating in this trajectory, who is the principal contact person. You can mention this in the chat, or you can mention it through email. Also good to know that we will organize an online exchange platform to share the information, an online space where you can share documents with each other, share questions, where different teams can exchange on the process. And we will, as UCLG and CIB Work Group Secretariat, define which platform it will be in the coming days. And we will also be looking into the different language options, because of course the different participants will be producing reports in different languages. So we will ensure to coordinate this and make sure the information is available for the participants.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Yes.
Then I need to, I will, before finalizing this session, I would like to acknowledge the participation of, first of all, of some of our key partners in this process, like the LOG and GIZ in some countries that are helping or participating in the process, for example, in Mexico, but we are also in the process of discussion in Zimbabwe, if they can also engage with us in the voluntary subnational reporting process, as we did last year, for example, in Benin or in Mozambique. And I would like to give 30 seconds the floor to Ramatuka, if she's here, or Bernadia, if they want to add anything you want regarding UCLG Africa or UCLG ASPAC in this process of reporting to the HLPF. Ramatuka, you are one of the key partners in this process. I don't know.
Oui, bonjour tout le monde. En tout cas, nous souscrivons au plan de travail en sachant que nous avons 3 villes, 3 associations, 3 pays concernés. Nous avons la Tunisie, le Cap-Vert et Zimbabwe. Le processus a bien démarré, comme l'a dit Edgardo. Donc voilà, on est aligné sur la feuille de route qui nous est proposée aujourd'hui. Merci.
Merci Ramatuka. Bernadia, one word. Bernadia, are you there?
Hi, yes, every good morning or afternoon and a very late evening here. And congratulations, Edgardo, for a very good session. Indeed, we are very excited to start this preparation of the VSR for Indonesia as well as for Pakistan. And then we really also would like to hear from many other experiences from many other countries, how the methodologies as well as the ways you do it. But what the principle that we would like to also to share with you, that we don't want this VSR to be seen as a shadow reports of the VNR, because we really would like to see that this VSR can actually support the VNR in the processes. I think this is the main reason why in the part of ASPAC we do it. And then we also have mentioned this information to the government of Indonesia. They also welcome about having this VSR as a reference and could be a supporting documents later on in the VNR of Indonesia that they will submit sometime this year. So over to you, Edgardo.
Thank you very much, Bernadia. We miss Sergio, the Secretary General from FLAGMA, that also is doing a big job to supporting the process in Mexico. We have here with us the expert from Cabo Verde, Jacinto Santos, a former mayor, We have the expert of Zimbabwe. Then I think we have a very nice community to work together and to preparing this workshop in March and looking forward in our exchange to make voluntary subnational report a big reference in the global debate on the localization of the disease. Thank you very much for this exchange. And we are going to join forces to make this workshop in March a very big success. Thank you very much for all. And we move to the plenary. Stay there. Thank you very much.
We are one world citizens. So that means if someone ain't living right, we all ain't living right. I am because we are. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. I won't go far without you. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. It's not about me, but the crew. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. Stick together like glue. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. Global goals, what it do? G-L-O-B-A-L, gold. G-L-O-B-A-L, gold. G-L-O-B-A-L, gold. For each and every soul. Without you, life don't make sense. We working so misery ends. Can't be happy till we all free. Humanity, one family. So much money, why do we have poverty? That should be illegal. So much food, so why my people still hungry? That should be illegal. Eternal happiness for you and you and you and you and you. That's utopia, but I know it will come true. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. I won't go far without you. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. It's not about me, but the crew. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. Stick together like glue. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. Global goals, what it do? What I wish for you is no hunger. What I wish is no poverty. I wish good health and well-being for you and your family. Quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, clean and affordable energy. What I want for you is economic growth and decent work to match your worth. We need industry, innovation, and infrastructure that will benefit a culture. Looking at us, I wish for reduced inequalities. I want to live in sustainable cities and communities. If we have responsible production and consumption, our future generation will be our fan. Climate action, take care of life below water and life on land. Peace, justice, and strong institution will benefit us all. If you need partnership for the global goals, just give us a call. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. I won't go far without you. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. It's not about me, but the crew. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. Stick together like glue. Ubuntu, 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 Ubuntu. Global goals, what it do?
Hi, colleagues. Welcome back to the global home of local and regional governments. It's our real pleasure to welcome you back to this plenary so that we have the reporting of our breakout sessions. It's been an amazing day. We've been listening to our amazing panelists in the plenary session, global common good, and remember, this day is a day dedicated to government. Without further ado, I will ask my colleague Simone from CITES Uni France to report us back on the session on crisis and our Solidarity Fund. Simone, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Je pensais que c'était Jean-Baptiste qui allait me supporter dans cette opération, mais je le fais avec plaisir. Non, c'était très intéressant, vraiment courte malheureusement, mais on s'adapte. On a pu présenter les activités du groupe de travail et notamment les deux axes, en fait, la partie advocacy, donc plaidoyer, et la partie action. Sur la partie action, on a présenté avec des vidéos, j'espère, assez parlants, les projets d'aide en cours dans 3 terrains, en Indonésie, au Mozambique et en Afrique, avec le soutien de CGLU, notamment au Ghana et au Mali. Donc, les premières activités, ils voient le jour. On a échangé sur un gros programme en cours au Liban que nous avons lancé dans le cadre du Fonds de solidarité pour aider les collectivités libanaises à se relever des multiples crises qu'ils ont subies dernièrement. Et on a présenté avec une petite vidéo ce nouveau outil qui est le Fonds international de solidarité des CGLU, qui a été adopté et que maintenant il nous faut travailler plus dans le détail dans le futur pour le faire marcher comme il faut. Sur la partie plaidoyer, on a cité l'idée qui vient de la proposition qui vient de la ville de Genève, qui précise les groupes d'héberger de façon annuelle et récurrente un séminaire pour remettre au cœur de la solidarité et de l'action dans l'urgence les collectivités territoriales dans une coordination efficace et intelligente avec les autres acteurs de l'aide, notamment les agences des Nations Unies et les grands ONG. Merci.
Merci, Simone. Well, solidarity is one of our core values, Emilia.
Yes, and a very important step forward that we have taken in the past year. Last year, we values was back. I would say throughout 2019 in the Congress. And there, the whole idea around working for local governments in crisis became very, very strong, building on the work that the special working group, the permanent working group is doing. And we finally took the leap forward and created this fund, which we really hope will be enriched with inputs from many, and which is proven to be extremely valuable for many members. So I encourage you, I always say it's very short, the time that we have, but it's just enough to show you what we are doing and that you find out more from the people that are directly involved. Please reach out to Simone or to the Secretariat to find out more.
Y el video al que se refería Simone estará en Uclg TV en este momento, así que vayan a él. Otro de nuestros valores como organización es la paz, y en ese sentido quiero recordarles que al final de esta sesión tendremos un ejercicio en Mentimeter, que vayan de una vez a sus teléfonos celulares, go to your mobile phones, because at the end of this session we'll ask you one question, following up on the retreat in Tangier and the peace agenda. With our colleagues from my city, from Mexico City, we'll be asking you a question. The code, so that you can take note, it's 7581853. We'll put it in the chat, but be ready, colleagues. Allow me now to introduce you to Elina Firmir. She was in our session on voluntary subnational reviews. She's going to report back on this instrument that we have both to report and for ownership. We always say that the voluntary subnational reviews are a political process. It's not only a reporting instrument. So, Elina, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. So as you say, well, of course, over the last years, a lot of countries have elaborated VNRs, but it's so important that subnational level also shows the progress on the SDGs. And that's why we are starting together with UCLG World Secretariat and CIB Working Group Secretariat, a trajectory with LGAs on developing subnational reports. So as UCLG working of Work Secretariat and CIB Working Group Secretariat, we would like to support LGAs in creating such voluntary subnational reports. And during the session we just had, we got very interesting comments and suggestions from all the participants on what to include in those reports. So just a quick recap of what has been mentioned during the session is, for example, the need to go further than only localizing the SDGs, and the importance of really taking stock of where we are now, with only some years to go until 2030. For example, Norway, KS, shared its first ideas on how to structure their VSR and their approach to gathering data. Deutsche Städtetag Germany has also embarked on the process on writing a VSR and has actually been today officially invited to integrate the voluntary subnational review within the VNR, and will present this at the HLPF. Mexico also just started. One of the things was mentioned was the main challenge of managing all the statistics from the National Statistic Institute and how to choose which data to incorporate in the VSR. Also, for example, from Belgium, there was the comment that would be interesting to hear more experience about advantages and disadvantages about the way that local data and local progress is incorporated in the VNRs. So those are all just a couple of remarks that were shared of the many, but just to give you an overview of the topics we will be working on this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you for bringing this subnational perspective to the reporting to the HLPF. Allow me now to introduce you to Carla Rey. She's the Secretary General of the Association of Italian Cities, and she's one of the hosts of the Venice City Solutions. Carla, the floor is yours to report back on the session of the Local for Action Hubs.
Hola, Pablo. Thank you. Thank you all. It was a very interesting session. It was the first meeting of our hubs, but we hope the first of many, because we want to meet more and to synchronize all our agendas and activities. Just to summarize the first exchange, it was clear that we believe in the hubs as a tool that can make very visible our local experiences at a global level. And we will work on communication because we want to have a concrete outcome and to be very effective. We feel that with the hubs in this period, in this particular moment of our history, we can really support and highlight the real values that we express following the SDGs and the agenda. We can really support also all the public social issues that we need to make much more visible and important for our citizens. And we can really relaunch a lot of good practices that we have already at a local level. So to conclude, we want to work all together. We are a big family. We are right now 14 hubs, but we want to grow more, and we are doing a little recruitment for new candidates. But the most important thing is that we want to work together as an orchestra. So we want to be very harmonic and to have one sound so that can really reach the global level. Thank you, Pablo.
Yeah, 14 hubs. We didn't think it was possible when we met in Tangier. Indeed, Carla, it's quite an achievement. And also thank you to the team here at the World Secretariat and Firdaus that has been sick over the past days and is joining us to follow up the breakout session. Yes, 14 is certainly not enough. And during the Asia Pacific session, we said many of the stories that our membership from Asia Pacific were telling us were certainly local for action hubs, many of those stories. Irriga, for instance, had great ideas. So please, please, please answer this second call. And remember, there is a yearly gathering, an annual gathering that we have in the Venice Solution Conference that Carla and our colleagues from UNDP, Diana, I think she's also with us, manage with us. It's a meeting point, but beyond that, UCLG is becoming a full local for action hub. So we need more of you, more of your stories, and congratulations again, Carla and team.
And be sure to visit the platform dedicated to the Local for Action hubs. The colleagues will put it in the chat so that you can have access to this platform. Colleagues, we will now finish with the report back from the breakout sessions with one of our milestones on the Cities Are Listening experience, which is a special dialogue that we are having with Habitat International Coalition and the Global Platform for the Right to the City and our own constituency of local and regional governments with special rapporteurs of the United Nations. I know Amanda Fletty, our colleague, will report back. So Amanda, the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias, Pablo. Primero, bueno, dar la excusa para la plataforma y HIC que no se pudieron quedar. Fue una sesión muy interesante en que hemos compartido con el resto de la red el impulso que se había dado desde Durban, el Congreso del año pasado, sobre cómo construir el multilateralismo. Y en ese sentido, hemos compartido los resultados de los 2 encuentros que hemos organizado con CGLU, HIC, la plataforma, 2 sesiones con más de 8 relatores sobre los distintos mandatos para explorar cómo podemos construir hojas de rutas compartidas, ¿no? y mejorar esa colaboración, fortaleciendo este sistema multilateral que estamos intentando empujar. También hemos explorado un poco las pistas, hemos escuchado de distintos miembros de México, de Granolers, de distintas partes, un poco que les parecía esa idea, ¿no? de colaboración y por qué era importante trabajar con los relatores especiales y crear ese diálogo, fomentar esa interrelación entre los derechos humanos y ver cómo podíamos avanzar juntos en esto. Entonces tuvimos comentarios muy positivos y un interés fuerte de seguir adelante y como lo subrayaba el alcalde de Granollers, porque estamos en un momento de pandemia donde tenemos que hacer un frente común para responder a la crisis y en eso es necesario construir ese diálogo multinivel y eso fue un poco el output. Muchas gracias.
Gracias a ti, Amanda. Y es, como decía antes, un momento importante para consolidar que las ciudades y los territorios escuchan. Y en esa lógica de escuchar, Emilia, hablabas el lunes de convertirnos en una plataforma de plataformas, pero sin olvidar que lo que queremos consolidar es que seamos una comunidad que cuida. Entonces, en ese sentido, Emilia, adelante. Entiendo que presentarás unos avances en esto.
A ver, lo que quiero presentar hoy es very quick. It's a very quick concept. We have been working as a network, as a family, as a community, on this notion of togetherness, on the notion of synergizing, aligning, synchronizing, waves of action. All of these things sound very familiar to you, don't they? Because we have been working on that throughout the retreats. And if I sense what you are telling me from the experience of this year's retreat is that you feel we are getting very close to this synchronization and that we are learning to collaborate with each other. It is wonderful to see how you are connecting the dots, how the committees know where their place is in the development of the global agenda. Of course, we can always do better. Of course, there are many things that we still need to answer. But we need to go one step further and we need to work on the traceability of all of these things. Where do these things come from? When you look at the reporting of this retreat, why did it have this program? Where do our priorities come from? This sense of we, what are we? And the images that you are going to see now next to me are related to a new way that we are trying to develop to report back to you. We don't want to report based on meetings. We want to report based on what we commit to, what we advocate for, what we care for. This nature of a caring community needs to be also seen in the way that we tell our story to the outside world. And public service delivery needs to be there at the heart of how we tell our story, how we tell the story of the World Council that took place last year. We also need to show how we care about mobility and what are the agendas that we want to influence, how we care about the right to the city and other things. So it's not about who was there, but about what did we commit to, what did we decide. Now, okay, this work that you have been seeing going on in the screen is what you will see, a new platform that you will see in a couple of months. And it will report on the whole of the work of the past year in an innovative manner. It's kind of where we want to go, but it's still very crafty. It's very handmade, right? We put there all the different pieces. The proposal that I am making to you, to all the hubs and networks of United Cities and local governments, to all these secretariats gathered here, but also to the members, is to go a step further. In a day and age of algorithms, when you have APIs that are these interfaces that are talking to each other continuously, we cannot continue doing knowledge management like we have been doing. In fact, there is a very big part of knowledge management that we shouldn't be doing ourselves. We need to build the basement of our house in a different way. We need to archive and select and structure our documents in a way that they can talk to each other. The algorithms need to do the work for us. So it needs to look like something like that. And it's something that now you are asking colleagues from all the different parts of UCLG to do. The algorithms need to be doing this work. Now, it's not something that we're going to resolve today, but it's my proposal as a working methodology within the framework of our inclusive open government, the Local for Action Hub of UCLG, with UCLG Meets at its core is the new tool, the new open government, the new open platform for us to see where all the decisions come from. No matter where you go into a UCLG section, you should be able to see what UCLG World is doing, and documents should be talking to each other. This is possible now. You just need to program it. And we need to learn how to organize ourselves. So I want to develop a dedicated series of workshops to develop this idea with people that know about this, because I don't know anything about it, and many of you don't know anything about it, but believe me, there are people that know, and some of them are even joining us in this meeting. They have come up with these strong ideas. You know, some of them, Tony and Sergio, that always accompany us. We also have Paisajes Transversal that has come with this strong notion of the power of we, also reflected in the way we report. So throughout this year, connected to the assessment that UCLG, the external assessment that UCLG is going through, to see whether we are fit for purpose. In parallel to that process, taking up the challenge that we might not be fit for purpose, let us try to be fit for purpose and to make sure that in the age of algorithms, we are also up to the task. So that was my thought. I leave it there, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it more. UCLG, the platform of platforms, it's possible.
I totally agree, Emilia. It's not only possible; it's what we need to do. It's similar to what we did last year to renovating everything in a virtual world. Now we have to come back to the physical world with a new strategy, and this is one of them. Emilia, do we go to the color of peace?
Yes. I think we should try and see whether that color has changed from last year.
So Mariana, colleagues, Mariana from Mexico City and colleagues, go to Mentimeter, please, menti.com. You will see it in the chat. Go to that link and use this code, which is 7581853. And the question is, what color does peace have? Let us see what we have on screen and let us see how, if it has changed from Tangier last year. Well, green is becoming important. We have purple and white. White going in the second place, green. It's interesting that it's green, one of the colors of peace.
It wasn't that strong last year.
Last year, no, but now planet it was our session yesterday. We have democracy as well, which is the color purple, yellow, red, we have blue. I think white and green. And
yeah, and we see a little bit of a difference there. Maybe people are missing nature a lot. We wanted to give you this thought because nothing of what we do is just by chance, and we are working around these concepts in the Forum of Cities for Peace, and we want you to keep involved in that process and recall that peace is more than nonviolence or safety. It's a much broader concept where government and communities have a very, very strong role to play. I think this is all we wanted to share.
Esto es todo, Emilia.
I don't know if there are any emergencies in the room. If there are not, then we would break here, leave you some time to do whatever you want, grab a cup of coffee, go to Wonder, and then come back for our research session. It promises to be a very interesting session indeed. At what time do we need to be back?
Volvemos en 15 minutos. Estaremos
Volvemos
a las
en 15.
4:50 en Europa, 4:50 in Europe, Central European time. Have a break and see you here because we care and we research all together. Thank you, Emilia.
We research. See you soon.
Bye bye.
Welcome back, colleagues. I know it has been a long day, but I think it has been worth it. I certainly hope so for you. It has been very inspiring for us here at the World Secretariat. And I am here in main stage with the learning team. The power of we needs to be reinforced by research and knowledge. And this is what we are going to be talking about. Researching with UCLG. Ainara, to you.
Thank you very much, Emilia, and hello everybody. Welcome to this session on what it means to research with UCLG. So as my colleague Anna was introducing to you on Monday, at UCLG Research, we're mainly working on 3 lines of investigation. Last year, in our retreat in Tangier, you handed to us a very specific mandate, which is that as an equality-driven movement, we can no longer tolerate inequalities, and as such, they must be put at the heart of the UCLG research agenda. Since then, we've been working really hard. We've been really pushing ourselves with our counterparts from the Knowledge in Action for Urban Equality, the KNOW project, towards the elaboration of the Goal 6 report, precisely on addressing inequalities, on finding pathways to urban and territorial equality. And we have done so by conceiving a process that seeks to have large transformational potential in itself towards precisely urban and territorial equality. Also in Tangier last year, you let us know that for you, it is critical that we address emergency governance. And the outbreak of the COVID pandemic only ratified that by letting us know that it's actually essential. And this is precisely what we have been doing in the framework of our emergency governance initiative in partnership with Metropolis and with our colleagues at the London School of Economics Cities. And also, as we have been hearing throughout this whole retreat, the localization of the SDGs needs to remain a central pillar of the UCLG research agenda. And as such, we have been not only working towards reporting to the HLPF towards the localization of the SDG reports, but the localization of the SDGs agenda, as we have just seen today, has taken a force of its own. And it has led us to work with different partners such as UN Habitat on the development of the guidelines for voluntary local reviews, and with the different UCLG regions and the different associations of local and regional governments by developing voluntary subnational reviews, working with the associations precisely on the ground in the different countries. And this is only part of the story, because the different UCLG sections have also increasingly been taking on research activities and developing different research strategies, specifically tailored to the needs of their own regions. And this is incredibly valuable. So as you can see, the activities of the Global Observatory of Local Democracy and Decentralization and the activities of the UCLG research agenda have become widely diversified, as so have the different partnerships that underpin all of these activities. We can see that there is clearly momentum for researching with UCLG. And today we're really grateful, Emilia, for having this space to actually take the time to think, to take a step back and take stock of everything that we have achieved so far. And not only, but also to really interrogate ourselves critically on what it is that we can do better, how can we do it better, and how can we do it better together. And in order to do that, it is my pleasure to have here with us, not on a stage, but virtually with us, but very present, some of our key partners in crime in all of these research endeavors, organized in 2 rounds of debates. In the first round, we'll have some of our key partners from the international institutions and the academia. We have Philippe Brody, we have Karen Levy, we have Martino Miraglia, and we have Ana Maria Vargas, who will be sharing with us what is the main advantage and the main challenge that they see in researching with UCLG, as well as share with us what has been their experience working with us over this last very trying year. In our second round of debate, we will have representatives from the different UCLG regions, such as Bernadia from UCLG ASPAC, we have Oscar Chamat from Metropolis, we have Nathalie Nupacha from CMR, and we also have François Yatta from UCLG Africa, who will be letting us know some of the key insights of the different research strategy undertaken by the different UCLG regions, and will let us know how it is that we can find synergies to really strengthen the UCLG research agenda. And before we go into the first round of debate, very quick technical remarks. We only have 1 hour, so we apologize in advance to our speakers for interrupting you when you go over time. And also to encourage participants to really post their comments on the chat. We will be picking them up if we do have the time. And if not, in any case, we'll be picking them up and putting them on the UCLG mural. Edgardo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ainara. Again, it's a pleasure for me to introduce this magnificent table panel of participants. As Ainara explained to you, we decided to approach this debate on researching with UCLG from two big sides. One is what we are doing with academia and international institutions. And in this first session, we will have Karen Levy, a principal investigator of University College of London, DPU, that is leading the project NO, with whom we are partners for the Gold 6 report. Then I will introduce our colleague, Philippe Roth, that you know now very well, is the executive director of London School of Economic Cities. Then we will move to our international partner, to Martino Miraglia, program officer of the Urban Practices branch of UN Habitat. And then in this first round, we will give the floor to a particular partner, is Ana Maria Vargas of the International Center for Local Democracy in Sweden. This is a special partner because she's have 1 foot on the research and training and 1 foot on local governments, because they are very much linked to SALAR. Then it's a special partner in this group of academia, international institution, and we are very much delighted to have all of you here. And then we move to, as Ainara mentioned, to the second round. Then first, maybe Karen and Philip, I will begin with you. We are just working together for 1 year now, even more for some, for Philip. And we are trying to ask you why you are partnership with UCLG. What is the experience in this last year? What are the key outputs for you? And what do you want to UCLG change to improve our quality of research? This is the first question. Then we move to the second question. Probably, I don't know if we have the time to make 2 rounds, but maybe we can touch immediately the 2 questions. One, the second question, if related, what is the vision for the future? How we can build an agenda between academia, international institutions, and local governments that have a long forward reaching objective. Thank you. Karen, go on, please. Mute. You are mute, Karen. You need to unmute.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Edgardo, and thank you so much for the opportunity to contribute to this very important and exciting venture to develop a joint research strategy. As you said, I work in the KNOW program located in the Development Planning Unit at UCL, which is focused on urban and regional development for some 67 years now. And as we all know, we face urgent, multiple intersecting challenges in our cities and regions, including climate change, health challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, and a range of life-altering inequalities in our cities and regions. We know that tackling them will require partnerships and knowledges that combine the best and the most innovative approaches at multiple scales. But the actions of local and regional governments are key. And local governments, because of their proximity to and their knowledge of urban dwellers and the capacities that they have to build and sustain local partnerships between public, private, and civil society actors. For us, UCLG, as a global coalition representing democratic local governments, a coalition that works very alongside local authorities, is a key and strategic partner in facing these amazing challenges. The advantages of bringing all these knowledges together also reflects what I see as the challenge, a main challenge. You asked me for one challenge, so a main challenge is building these kind of partnerships. Academia, local regional governments, and international institutions, and I would add civil society organizations, have different modalities of working that could present challenges when they're brought together. However, I have to say that as an example of our experience of negotiating this, our experience of working with you on the UCLG Goal 6 report has shown that it is indeed possible to negotiate these very different modalities of working with the right commitment and I think a shared aspiration. So I can stop there, although I'm happy to continue with my suggestion of how we can contribute to the development of the research strategy.
Thank you very much, Karin. Very important as points that you are underlying. Now we are moving to Philip, with whom we have regular discussions about how to approach the emerging governance initiative with different points of view sometimes, and but learning a lot of what London School of Economics is developing regarding this aspect of complex governance initiative. Then, Philip, if you want to share with us what you're feeling after 1 year supporting us.
Thank you very much, Edgardo. And in some ways, you know, you put to us a special task of reflecting about our feelings very much in public. Look, the first thing to say, and Karen alluded to that, for university to be connected, and if you work in the urban sphere in particular, you know, to not engage with practice, with things that happen on the ground, is, I think, very hard to justify. If you want to do empirical work, if you want to make also a difference and have impact, connect with societies, I think all researchers, certainly I know of, that have a strong relation with the urban, in some ways, feel that they want to also contribute. And the way of contributing through your network, through your cities, is just a process which is more targeted, it's more spot on, it allows us to refine the messaging, and therefore, you know, this is a very obvious statement to make, but nevertheless important. Beyond that, it allows us at LSE Cities to close what I sometimes refer to the research, education, and praxis loop, and particularly in the context of executive education. We cannot speak to our students, in fact, even undergraduates and graduates nowadays, through the lens of theory only. And having a degree of exposure through you to the practical political conversations and engagement gives us the legitimacy to become educators. So this is absolutely central. In terms of challenges, yes, we operate in different ways. Our institutions have also, initially at least, maybe different targets. And the one area where that's playing out the strongest is maybe with operating along different timescales. I mean, with the project on emergency governance in particular, producing outputs every 3 months, you know, that's not what academics usually do. In fact, most academics would say that's problematic as an approach to begin with. So, you know, the timeline is challenging, and I certainly think there is something where we are looking forward. Hopefully are able to bring in sort of a sort of joint reinforcing mechanism that allows to do the proper research and at the same time allows your speed. You know, there's one last important point about the future, and I mentioned complexity, and the complexity requires real experimentation. And through you, with your cities, I think we could become partners in observing, monitoring real change on the ground and draw empirical lessons from that. So a kind of governance and practice and policy labs I think is a way to go.
We will come back to the experimentation, as you mentioned, for the future, as Karen proposed to come back to this, and we have the time. Now, I am moving to an international organization with whom we worked for a long time, but in the last year, at least at the research dimension in particular, we have been developing different initiatives. One was our contribution to the World Cities Report, and the second one, what we launched last year, the voluntary local review. This is Martino Miraglia from UNAVIT. If you are there, I don't see you on the screen, maybe
I am there.
Martino on the screen, then I will ask you the same questions that I put forward to the academia. What are the key lessons or the key experience that you have developed in the last year with UCLG? What are the challenges from the point of view of UNAVIT to develop initiative of researching with UCLG? I don't know if we can have Martino.
He's already there.
Okay,
Thank you,
Martino, go on, please.
Thank you, Edgardo. I hope that you can hear me, even though if you cannot, if you don't see me, it's fine. Thanks for inviting to the panel, and I kind of joined the same reflections of previous panelists. First and foremost, I would say, let's start. I'll be brief. Let's start from the advantages. I think that the first advantage would be the expertise and the professionality of the research section. I mean, UCLG gathered this wealth of expertise and information about local governance and local development that is, I would say, that very few institutions worldwide can claim to have. And secondly, with regards to the different modalities that we normally use with regards to our research processes, I think that characterize the research and especially the team is the flexibility to understand also the needs and the modalities of the other partners, in this case, the United Nations, and to adapt to it, which is not very common and much appreciated. Second advantage is a bit what Philip was also saying, the possibility to get access, direct access to local and regional governments, to their experience worldwide. And I would add to the association of local and regional governments that in many countries gather the information at local level, coming from the local level, without filters, without mediation. And that is a priceless value, that kind of information that comes directly from the ground. In terms of challenges, I've been asked to be provocative, so I will be. The first one is, from my point of view, and this is something that really unites us, despite the many efforts that we did to be as much as inclusive as possible, we tend sometimes to kind of fall on the usual suspects when it comes to case studies, especially to the space that is given in certain research. Because of cities have more data so that we can build on more information, and of course they will get then at some point more space in the researches that we produce. I think that we can do more from that point of view. And the second point will be on the challenges, and I close here, is the question of methodology, of academic rigor. Our researches are based on analysis of information and validation of information coming from the local level. We kind of need to do the step forward and make this a kind of, I will conclude, an academic effort so that our research become universal and applicable to other realms and to other realities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martino. It's always a pleasure to discuss and to work with you. Now, Ana Maria, please explain your innovative way to making research, bringing academia, practitioners from the north, from the south. Please go on.
Thank you, Edgardo. And when you sent this invitation, you said that we should be provocative. So I'm going to start by making a provocative statement that represents a challenge that we have. And I'm going to share what we have been doing in the last 3 years to overcome this challenge. So the challenge is that we tend to focus and to use too much and rely too much on universities and academics from the global north. And we have here in the panel the perfect example example, the London School of Economics. And this was a challenge for ourselves as well. We used to work in the past, mainly with famous scholars from Harvard, from the University of London, and obviously from the universities in Sweden, where we are based. And yet our programs were mainly in Africa, in Asia, and in Eastern Europe. So we started idea in 2019. We put our advisory board, these famous scholars from Harvard, and we make something called Shark Tank, where we say, we give you this money, you have to organize a conference with scholars. What we want to achieve is this. What would you do? And they said, like, do everything the contrary we've been doing. So the first thing they said, it has to be like something that is long, not just a 2-day conference where everyone presents, no one really gets to know each other and to go in depth. So we made a 1-week kind of retreat in the city of Umeå in the north of Sweden during the summer when the sun never goes down. And we brought 45 scholars plus 10 mentors. So these 10 mentors were like these famous professors, but the 45 scholars were emerging researchers from the countries where we work. And this has given us a lot of interesting learning examples. The first of all is that they are extremely good at what they're doing. And the second is that it's really possible to create a network and to collaborate in a more equal basis. So I will stay there and share more later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really, all of you are very much collaborative with time. Now we're moving to the second question. And as many of you, some of you, as Philip advanced some of the ideas of the looking forward. And we have different experience on methodologies, on ways, on how to create use of inclusiveness and to mix knowledge from the north and from the south. This is a key question for our point of view on the concept of co-creation of the researching agenda. Now, we are going back again. I don't know who wants to take the floor first. We keep the same order. That's mean Karen, Philip, Martino, and Ana Maria, or maybe we change. But Karen, please go on, please.
Okay, thank you, Edgardo. So first of all, I'd like to share with you an experience of working across the No program with actors in the UK and city actors in Latin America, Africa, Asia, and Australia. So again, a very broad alliance of partners. And we found that one of the best ways to work together is to set ground rules or principles at the start of any process. And the overarching principle for us has been what we call partnerships with equivalence. And in other words, that the way in which we're going to work together, that these partnerships operate on the basis of at least 4 principles. The first one being mutual respect. And that means mutual respect for each other's knowledges and ways of working. And it sounds like it's something we should all just automatically accept. But we know that the world doesn't always work like that, and the hierarchies in the world don't always work like that. We also think that a second principle is the principle of accountability and transparency in the way we work together. The third one is one that is very dear to us and is central to the gold process that we're working with in UCLG now, which promotes the co-production of knowledge. The co-production of knowledge between actors, within governments, within civil society, within the market, within universities. And the final principle, which I think is a really important principle and for me is epitomized in this very session, is a commitment to promoting co-learning, a constant process of co-learning between us all. We've found that if we can go into and experiment with and work with these principles in whatever we do, we can start to build the kinds of partnerships that are really productive in any process we're engaged with. Thank you, Edgardo.
Thank you very much, Karen. Following the same line, Philip, methodologies, agenda. What are the key dimension that this world that is being transformed, that is being mega trends challenges, what are the key dimensions that for you should be at the top of the agenda in the co-creation of the putting local governments and people at the center for the coming years?
Thank you, Edgardo. And, you know, it allows me on the one hand to expand what I alluded to earlier, but then also come back to Anna Maria's point, which I think we really have to consider quite centrally as we move forward with a more meaningful research agenda that connects with the contexts which we are working with in a much more sophisticated way. What I mean by that is, again, I think we need to accept that our capability of theoretically arguing the case for governance arrangements, or as some colleagues may even want to do, start modeling in some very sophisticated way what level of decentralization is from a macroeconomic perspective better. These things have their limitations, and particularly if we have a situation where we're pressured for time. And in the earlier session, I also made this point, we need to dare more experimentation, but we can only justify that if we have mechanisms in place that constantly monitor and learn from, yes, both the successes and the mistakes. And that brings me back to Anna Maria. I do think as part of those, you know, policy or governance labs and being really close to practices on the ground, it would be absurd to do this through a very remote agent, whether they are sitting in London, in Stockholm, or in New York or Boston. And I think we have also learned lessons where we are becoming much better globally as universities to collaborate amongst equals and to work with local partners and really understand much better where are the different strengths which we can bring in to even out, I guess, a traditional hierarchy which you also alluded to, which I also believe is highly unfortunate.
Thank you very much, Philip. Now we move again to Martino, and as you are developing your global thinking about the implementation of the new urban agenda and what these challenges imply for the research for an international institution like UNHabitat, but also for all your partners and local governments in particular. Please go on.
Let me join Philip and Anna Maria in the reflection. I think that the key question of experimentation, of piloting, of actually understanding what is happening on the ground to feed into our research is key. So I will build on that point with a bit more meat, and it will be first. I think that we need to, especially while looking at the new urban agenda and the researchers on the localizing the SDGs, I think that and that's the effort that you guys are doing, moving from researching on to researching with. So find new partners of inclusiveness to bring the actually case studies and the partners that they are producing information in the process of research, so to leverage transformative action. Research has power, so it's not about the deliverable of the report, it's about the process that we produce on the ground. And finally, in terms of, I would say, priorities for us and for our joint work, and I'm happy that you are doing this with the second guidelines for VLRs, is the focus on connecting local and national levels. One of our main goals is to reduce the gap between local and national governments in communication, alignment, resources. We need to focus on multi-level governance. We need to have data and information so that our political discourse is stronger and we can go farther and in that alignment and coordination. Thank you, Edgar.
Thank you very much, Martino. Anna Maria, last but not least.
Okay, thank you. And I agree with the things that Card and Philip and Martino said. And I would just add with something very specific that we are trying to do. So we are signing memorandum of understanding with universities in the countries, the 15 countries where we work, where we want a partnership with them and provide stipendiums to their master students so that they can write their thesis linked to the broader study that we are trying to do on local democracy. And I think this is a really concrete and specific way to connect to the ground, to do something of co-creation together with other actors. And I look forward to develop this initiative with UCLG.
Thank you very much, Ana Maria. And before giving the floor to the second round, maybe some key outcomes, the question of co-creation, of the principles that colleagues from UCL put on the front that are critical for us, partnership between equals. That is a key point in our approach for the co-creation of this research agenda, connecting with the practice, with the political efforts. And this is one of the answers we can provide from UCLG experience with its partners regarding the need to bridge academia with practitioners. I think we are moving forward in this dimension, and we need to look how we are going to deepen our research to face the mega challenges that we are facing in the coming years. Then I give the floor to Ainara to introduce the second.
Thank you very much, Edgardo, and thank you very much to our wonderful 4 panelists. It's a pleasure to work with all of you, and I super look forward to continue doing it. And now let's move to the second round of debate. And it is my pleasure to welcome our next 4 panelists. We have Bernadia Tiandradawi, the Secretary General of UCLG ASPAC. We have François Yatta, Program Director at UCLG Africa. We have Nathalie Nupadja, Head of Research and Studies at CMR. And we have Oscar Chamat, our dear colleague, who is Policy and Research Officer at Metropolis. So let's go right into it. Colleagues, Bernadia, I'll start with you. 2 minutes. What are the main insights of the research strategy that UCLG ASPAC is developing right now?
Thank you very much. Greeting from Jakarta. ASPAC office in Jakarta is very late evening here. But first of all, congratulations to Edgardo and the team for putting successful goal reports. I think this is already a good achievement that the organization has. For us, this research is actually close to my heart because this is also another profession that I have. I also sometimes teach at the university. So this is why I always interested in the research. When we do the research at UCLG ASPAC, we conduct the research based on these current issues and also based on the needs and based on also the urgencies and the importance of the research. So I give you example, during this COVID pandemic last year, we did already 5 research. This is also combined with a big program that we have on the localization of SDGs. So in these 5 research, we're looking at, like, for example, effective budget management in the pandemic situation, because a lot of local governments, had to allocate resources for responding to the COVID-19. And also we see one of the other research we did is on the economic recovery in the one of the hit sector, which is tourism sector. Another 3, effective awareness raising policy to ensure compliance for health protocol. And we come up with good recommendations that communications is a key for local governments to be able to transfer and to make sure that the curve is flattened. And data synchronization for social safety net program and addressing social impact of the pandemic. We work a lot with the SDG centers that are created by universities. Here, I'm talking about the case of Indonesia. So we also conducted research that looking at the decentralization and enabling environment. I think we got inspired by UCLG Africa, and we have cities enabling environment rating. And we plan to do it also on every 2 years basis so that we can see the progress. And we're looking at this by having around 10 indicators on enabling environment. So
what we like to do here and what we also apply here is that this research, we use it as, and we see the progress, and we use it in the beginning of the research as a baseline. So we use this policy recommendation. So we have to make sure that those research are applicable research. It's not just putting in the shelf and then nothing happened after that. So another research also that we did in the past is looking at the number of women and mayors councillors, women councillors as well as the mayors councillors. So that's what we do. We also work a lot with the universities through internship program. But sometimes what also, this is another issue that I like to highlight here, that a lot of research results that come from us, UCLG ASPAR, I admit that, and also maybe from UCLG World as well, that we need to make use of this research result. And they use by academia. Yeah?
One final remark before we go to the next question. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes.
So,
actually, I think what we can do together, together with UCLG World is maybe you should identify a collective issues that faced by several regions. I think CE, city enabling assessment rating, that could be one of the examples. Another thing that I
is
think
a really interesting idea, but please let us go back to it in the second
I
question.
give it back to you.
Thank you so much. Let us now go to François Yatta. François, same question to you. Main insights of the UCLG Africa research strategy. 2 minutes. I think you're mute, François.
Donc, bonjour à tous et merci encore une fois de donner l'occasion d'échanger sur un point important qui est la recherche. À CGLU Afrique, nous avons 2 défis pour la recherche. D'abord, une recherche pratique qui peut aider à améliorer la prise de décision, mais aussi une recherche africaine qui permet effectivement de mettre au devant les acteurs africains. Je prends un exemple. Si vous prenez les finances locales d'Afrique, eh bien, vous allez voir plein de recherches de toutes les universités du monde, mais les principaux acteurs des finances locales en Afrique, c'est-à-dire les directeurs financiers des collectivités territoriales, se caractérisent par ce qu'on peut appeler d'un silence assourdissant. Ils ne disent pas grand-chose, ou bien on ne les écoute pas. Alors, c'est pourquoi nous avons mis en place ce qu'on appelle la Revue africaine des finances locales, qui est une revue où vous ne trouverez que des articles des directeurs financiers des collectivités territoriales, qui traitent un peu de toutes les problématiques que nous connaissons, la dette, la mobilisation de ressources, les questions liées à la solidité ou à l'autonomie financière des collectivités territoriales. Bernardia l'a dit, nous avons une recherche qui est très importante, qui est le City Enabling Environment Rating, qui est une recherche qui permet de capaciter les collectivités locales justement pour la mise en œuvre de tous ces agendas. Et donc, nous avons une douzaine de critères que nous utilisons qui nous permettent ensuite de classer les pays en vert, jaune, rouge, orange plutôt et rouge. Les pays en vert, c'est les pays où l'environnement institutionnel est favorable aux collectivités locales. Les pays en jaune, l'environnement est favorable sous réserve de quelques points d'amélioration. Les pays en orange, l'environnement est favorable sous réserve de réformes structurelles. Et puis, en rouge, l'environnement est vraiment défavorable et mérite des réformes structurelles. Voilà, je crois que je vais attendre peut-être le second tour pour ajouter un certain nombre de choses. Merci.
Merci François. Et maintenant, Nathalie, à vous la parole.
Bonjour, merci beaucoup. Merci pour cette invitation, premièrement, à partager nos stratégies et ce qu'on fait en termes de recherche. Je pense que c'est très important. C'est un point important de pouvoir communiquer et c'est peut-être une idée que je vais explorer dans la troisième question, si on a le temps de s'y poser. I'm switching now in English just to answer the precise question about the CMR research strategy. Well, the main insight, the strategy began in 2013 actually, before that, research existed, of course, but it was done by policy officers, really to back up policy papers and so on. So the idea here was to add coordination and to really back up our arguments to influence policy, feed the knowledge exchange amongst our member associations. That's an important part of the CMR research strategy. And third, influence research agendas. Make sure that whatever is out there is really looking for applied research, for policy use, and have a major societal impact. With these three visions or objectives in mind, I have to say that my job was really to look at the coordination of the research work and a sort of knowledge broker. So look for the data already existing. In terms of research we actually conduct within CMR, they are important internal studies, like I like to say, like structures and competences of local and regional governments in Europe. It's a study done every 4 or 5 years, in parallel a little bit with the gold past editions as well, when there was a part on decentralization in Europe. We have one huge successful study that was on women in politics, done in 2019. And then we also have an annual study on localizing the sustainable development goals together with Platforma. Next to these, let's say, big or important studies, we have smallest reports, like the impact of COVID-19 on local finances. These kind of reports come from some data, a shorter period of data collection with our members, really responding to a policy target, a policy problem or issue. And then we also work on questionnaires for studies for the European Commission, usually in cooperation with think tanks like Spatial Foresight. They have just now recently sent us a survey on the impact of COVID-19 on tourism.
Natalie, really sorry.
And that's it, I'm finished. Yeah, so my last remark is this. These are these three kind of things we do. And recently we have this survey on impact of COVID-19 on tourism with Spatial Foresight. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Oscar, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I see that that in the mail that you sent, you said that you will be very strict on time with the time, and I see that you are working on this. Thank you so much for that. So I will try to make the best of my 2 minutes. Inside of the research in Metropolis, I think that the most important thing is the evolution that we are performing right now. We have a lot of time working on producing information, and now we are trying to connect those dots, those knowledge dots that we already have produced to generate something new on something with added value internally. At the same time, we are working to try to connecting not only the dots, internal dots, but connecting the networks, trying to work actively with other networks, knowledge center and experts outside of Metropolis and outside the network cities environment. Second point, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Because we want to try to go to applied research. A person before me said something like that. No, we call it actionable research, but probably applied research is also relevant for us, and that's why we are looking for. In the next 3 years, we are working especially in two main focus, among others. That is, how can we translate all this information, all this knowledge that we are generating inside Metropolis with you, with universities and research centers? How can we connect all this to governance, to how can we innovate in governance? How can we transform public spaces in order to make our knowledge that something useful for our membership, and not only amazing and very interesting projects. I will stop here in order to avoid that you show me the letter. So I hope that I have time later to come back on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oscar. Thank you so much to all of you for really making the effort to stick to time. And also in the interest of time, I'll go directly back to Bernadia to go for the second question. You have already given us a hint on how it is that you think that we can find synergies to really reinforce the UCLG research agenda together. Bernadia, the floor is yours. 2 minutes. I think you're mute.
Yes, yes, yes. I will make sure I will speak less than 2 minutes because I used already a beginning. Anyway, I think several things that we can do maybe together with UCLG. I think we have to identify several collective issues that we face together in different regions. I think I did mention yesterday that this city enabling environment rating that we can do together, yeah, because there are 2 regions that have already implemented, and we will be doing it also this year. Another one also about international cooperation. I think we need to make sure that we can measure it because this is also important to show that there is a co-benefits of doing international cooperations. I think this could be maybe another possibility. Another thing also that we have seen so many co-production of knowledge that produced by regions, by UCLG worlds. I think there is a great if we can create a shared platform that available based on this maybe themes, and we can have a very nice library, a digital library. These days you can put it in the clouds, but I think information that can be easily accessed by users, can be local governments, can be cities, regional, local government association. I think that could be one of the things that we can consider together. Maybe you can also allocate some kind of portions to test innovation and strengthen synergies between regions through maybe a development of mobile apps. I think this is possible, but what important is that research should be applicable, research should be used not only by users like local governments and cities, but also can be continued, reshape or retransform inside the universities, can be used by students, by university graduate students. But then that means that there is a sustainability on this, so that I think I'll end this. I think I speak less than 2 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Bernadia. That was 2 minutes sharp. And also, big thank you for being really concrete in your proposals and for really trying to draw together with us, co-creating in this session a concrete roadmap towards a reinforced and enhanced UCLG research agenda. Francois, same question to you. Synergies and proposals are fully welcome.
Merci beaucoup. Alors moi, je voudrais proposer des thèmes de recherche commune là, sur la base de ce que j'ai entendu. Je pense qu'il y a quelque chose qui est très important, c'est les questions de financement. Les questions de financement sont au cœur de la problématique de la décentralisation dans la plupart de nos régions. Donc, je pense que ça pourrait être un thème commun à approfondir. Le deuxième thème, c'est les ressources humaines des collectivités territoriales. On ne peut pas parler de décentralisation quand on a un niveau de ressources humaines très faible qui handicape la mise en œuvre des compétences transférées et particulièrement des agendas mondiaux. Alors, nous avons aussi la question du climat qui est très, très importante. Tout le monde sait que les conséquences du climat se sentent au niveau local, alors que dans la pratique, les collectivités territoriales ne sont pas totalement intégrées dans la gestion de la question climatique. Donc, comment est-ce qu'on peut travailler ensemble puisque cette problématique se retrouve dans toutes les régions? Ensuite, il y a la question du CE rating. Vous savez, Bernadia l'a dit, pour la première fois, on note des processus de décentralisation. Et ça fait la différence parce que tant qu'on parle de façon générale, personne ne se sent concerné, mais dès qu'on met une note derrière un pays, eh bien, vous avez les égos qui sont bousculés, vous avez des questionnements qui sont posés, et donc ça pousse à améliorer. Moi, je me rappelle la première CE rating qu'on avait publiée, eh bien, ça a fait un tollé, et la plupart des pays nous ont dit, mais comment faire en sorte pour faire les réformes qu'il faut pour que la prochaine notation, nous soyons mieux notés. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, François. Et maintenant, Nathalie?
Yes, thank you. So concrete synergies. I think one thing I would expect, because we are already working quite well with UCLG, especially, for instance, for the joint survey platform CMR and UCLG are doing for localizing the SDGs. We cooperate as well in the standardization of collection of data, like in the World Observatory on Local Finances, and of course the called 6th edition that you've mentioned in the introduction. But we work a lot with UCLG, but not so much with the other regions. I don't have so many contacts. I'm not sure I know absolutely all the researchers, all the head of research of the other regions. So I think something like a seminar, an annual seminar or a meeting like this one, for instance, but maybe in more, let's say, intimate setting, to actually really exchange on these, to continue the discussion on common subjects, common challenges. For instance, one challenge we have is that we've seen within our CMR research strategy implementation that our added value in any cooperation with researchers, think tanks, consultants is data collection. What we can do, it's actually together to find disaggregated data at local level that is not there already. But how to manage this, how to make the best out of it, this is something I would like to also share and discuss with my counterparts.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Oscar.
Thank you so much. Trying to go straight forward. Regarding synergies, I think that the idea that was shared just before me to try to meet each other internally, I think that is a very good and interesting idea in order to something that is very difficult to understand. How can we translate the challenges that we all know that what are those challenges? We have different names for those challenges. Inside Metropolis, we have identified 4 main challenges: urban growth, public legitimacy, digital disruption, and resilience. I think that all of them are shared in some way or in another way with all of them. We share this idea. But how can we understand to transform all this data to make it useful? Otherwise, our amazing products that we are producing will stay there. Nobody will download it, nobody will read it, nobody will understand what we are trying to do. What is the most challenging thing is to try to put together all these ideas and desire to transform our realities and to help our memberships in order to transform their realities. Jorge said going to workshops directly. I think that is interesting to work with them. Inside Metropolis, we are trying to do this, but probably if we work together, just having informal conversations, something that we lost using the Zoom and not in the retreat, could be very interesting to go forward. So I put it here just to going from producing documents to meeting people in order to have a research and applied research to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oscar. And again, huge thank you to all of you for having shared with us your thoughts on challenges, on very particular topics on which you would like the UCLG agenda to be focusing more. You have shared with us concrete steps forward. And I think that it has been a really inspirational session. There has been a lot of going back and forth of ideas, and also, as I was saying before, being very concrete to the point, to which I think that we might be having, Edgardo, a specific, more intimate session on research upcoming. And that's, of course, really exciting for us. So I don't think that we have anything else to say, but to thank all of you from the bottom of our heart, and to give the floor to Edgardo for perhaps a final wrap up, a conclusion to this session.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. It was, as always, a pleasure to have a deeper discussion. We need to renew this kind of initiative more soon, more regularly. I'm putting on the one side, on the all together, academia, our practitioners, our head of research from the different units, also maybe, and we haven't time, but we wanted to bring also civil society to this discussion today, but it was difficult to bring all together, but we should do it. Nevertheless, there are some take-out issues that I will like to underline, that for me, at least after some years of experience in trying to research with UCLG, that are at the center of our demand. First of all, I like very much the principles that Karen, that UCL have shared with us, the partnership, as I mentioned before, partnership between equals, accountability, transparency, and the concept that co-creation. I think with goal 6 and what we are doing now, we are making a strong step forward in this concept of the co-creation. We did it in the past And we use the concept of co-creation for goal 4, for the habitat 3. And also it was the goal 5 was a co-creation, but more within sections, because all the sections participate very strongly in the building of goal 5. Now goal 6 even a step forward, because we have the commissions, the committees, the academia, and civil society very much involved. For giving you a reminder, the last workshop that we did to launch Goal 6, we have 100 people on board discussing the contents and the way we are going to develop Goal 6. Then co-creation is a critical approach and is at the core of what we are doing and what should continue to do in the future. Then connecting the thinking, the development of theory and practices, as I think all of you mentioned, but Philippe particularly, the need to experiment and to do something that is linked the global reflection of the key challenges with the applicable research and on the practices. This is something that still, even for the goal team, we need to improve, to develop more. And this is related to the kind of production we can do on research. And I will be very much happy to work all together how we can produce different products during the year, because our research agenda is not only limited to the goal report every 3 years. Now we are developing policy notes, etc. every 3 months. It's very hard. We are producing yearly our report to the HLPF, and now the voluntary subnational report. Then we are expanding, but we still need to improve, to try to produce more applicable research, short and medium-term research. And then I think what is very important for all of us, both for our section, for us, and for the academia, is how we can share this knowledge. The idea of Natalia regarding the, I don't know if it was Natalia or no, Bernadia, that mentioned the possibility of a shared platform, a knowledge platform for all of our sections, putting together the different production, and even beyond what we are producing within UCLG. Then the need to look some joint projects. Yata mentioned different thematics that are critical for us: financement, decentralization, human resources, climate change. Natalie mentioned the question of data. And obviously we have different approach. Metropolis can help us to understand what is happening in the big metropolitan area. And the mega cities phenomenon is something that is changing the way we are addressing our research agenda. And overall, I think, and maybe we come to the beginnings of our effort of the goal report, the concept of decentralization, of local democracy, this question of assessment of what decentralization means for local governments in the different countries of the world, based on the experience of our colleagues from Africa and from Asia, this assessment of the enabling environment of local governments, as we received the chat of our colleagues from the World Observatory on Financing and Investment of Subnational Governments, particularly Serge Alou. We need to learn to use all the information we gather, financing, governance, emergency governance, to try to improve the quality of our assessment of the institutional enabling environment for local governments in different sites of the world. Then the ranking that Africa and Asia is proposing, maybe we need to have a discussion how we can take advantage of that, how to use it, eventually to adapt it to the different regions, but come back to idea to have a global observatory of local democracy and decentralization, bringing this idea of comparativeness, of ranking of the institutional environment for local government in different countries, particularly in this difficult time we are facing with the pandemic, with the recovery process, different situations regarding centralization, decentralization, the scissor effect for the financing of local government, the demand for new services when local governments are facing difficult budgetary situations in different countries of the world. Then This is our key messages, the key outcomes that we can take out for this FAA. And I promise you the research team, with your support, will be working on that in the coming weeks, months, in the framework of producing our production. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, learning team, research team. I was writing something on learning and
Emilia, we all learn, we all research, we all advocate, don't we?
That's what I was writing, exactly. You got it right. Researching is more than the research team. And in fact, we have several reports that have been produced the last year that we have produced with other teams. Learning is more than the learning team. Policy is more than the policy team. I think that what we are trying to show is that we need to integrate all the actors. But I very much agree, Edgardo, with the fact that this notion of meeting and exchanging on what we have done, it's unavoidable. It's not only about the production of documents, it's more than that. We have a learning forum. I think we need to have a research forum. And I think that the proposal from our European colleague was going down that path. And I really like it. So it's a promise. We're going to do it. And then the other thing on this platform, I just made a pitch about it. It needs to be one single platform and the documents need to talk to each other. And already having documents talking to each other is a very big step, a leap forward in some of the problems that Oscar was sharing, that we don't know from each other. If we are developing, archiving and organizing our knowledge in a way that they talk to each other, then we are already in a very long way. Beyond that, we need to build around that this community of researchers. I fully agree with that. So I think it's important to do that. I found the session very interesting indeed, with very concrete proposals. And we are going to close the day. So thank you very much. A big applause to you.
No, a big applause for all the speakers.
Participants, all the speakers and everybody that has been with us since very, very, very early in the morning. Tomorrow we have another big day. We are leaving the week with a splash. The global task force with all the local and regional governments networks that work internationally is going to meet tomorrow. They are all going to be here. You should be here to hear what their agenda is. We've got members of the presidency joining us, and we've got our Learning with UCLG session. I understand that we have had no problems in the help desk, that everything is fine. We have really enjoyed the day. Thank you very much, Juan Carlos and Carol, for all those questions that you have answered. Very important, tomorrow morning, the European section, and then the Global Task Force. We are leaving the week with a splash. Enjoy. Thank you very much for being with us. Bye. Thank you, learning team. Bye.